Welcome to the Lost Lowdown podcast 129 with your hosts Claude and Justin.
What's up, guys?
We are back, continuing our season 2 commentary series with episode 222, 3 Minutes, or as we
Woo!
could call it, More Reasons Why Michael Will Get Damned on This Island.
If he doesn't feel guilty enough, we can learn other ways in which he's betraying the group.
So many betrayals. So many.
We didn't ask you to do anything, Michael.
We only suggested that you do this thing or we kill your son. That's it. We didn't ask
That's all.
you. There's no contract written here.
That was your choice. We gave you a suite of options,
A whole
and
suite. And you chose the worst option.
yeah, exactly, and that's why you deserve what you got.
We were wondering why you didn't just ask for Walt back.
Mm-hmm. Seems like it would have been simpler, but you
That
didn't
was
want that.
part of the suite, you know? It was on the back of the menu, but it was on there. All right, so we're just coming off a question mark, a pretty cool episode.
Yeah.
A really good stuff with the whole Locke and Echo path on the island kind of ideas, which were
Yep.
really interesting. So now we're coming back to the others and the whole Michael Walt story, and this is where Michael goes. Of course, has now gone off the rails. As a character that you like, because you're like, okay, well, let's see if what he's done so far is justified.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're kind of waiting for him to explain himself at this point.
Yeah.
And like you said, it comes down to, well, he didn't tell you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just their thing they love on Lost, is where the bad guy is always like, don't blame me for that thing.
Right. You're
Don't
right.
blame me for that thing I made you do.
That totally sounds like a Man in Black thing. Yeah. Oh my God. I didn't do nothing to you.
I didn't make
Yeah.
I may have run you into a tree, but I didn't put the tree there.
You think I planted that tree?
Now you're gonna blame me for planting a tree, even though I've been on the island long enough to have planted that tree.
Maybe I did plant that
Maybe I
tree.
technically planted all the trees in this area. Nevertheless,
It doesn't mean it's my fault when you run into them. Yeah, I mean, one thing I've realized about Lost that I don't think I really saw when the show was on is that like the the end of the season, so there's like two modes, right? We just came off this question mark episode, and in that episode we have well, we have Locke, of course, we have Echo, we have dreams, we have probably Men in Black getting involved, so we have like a kind of hint of the bigger story.
the villain we don't even know is the villain yet. Yeah,
Exactly, and who will remain hidden for the rest of the season.
the
And
Voldemort, if you will.
exactly, yeah, totally. That's what it's like. It's like Harry Potter. Yeah, exactly. Like there's this sort of story hovering in the background, but then you have the end of the seasons. If you think about like the end of the seasons for most seasons,
Mhm.
it's usually a much more like practical
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, the logistics of solving some issue.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a conflict with the others or the freighter, or it's they gotta do the incident. There's some like basic kind of real world mission
Hmm.
that they have to do,
It's
and
action oriented.
exactly. And I think I didn't really realize that when we were watching the show, like the way the show has two modes, sort of the basic action adventure mode,
Hmm.
and then like the mystery weird mythology mode, and how like in finales they really don't do a lot of the mythology stuff. It's much more
Hmm.
action oriented. And so like here I think we're kind of transitioning into the action mode because now we're going to talk about the conflict with the others.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a pattern we noticed, was just the ramping up. towards the end of the season, you knew at a
Yeah,
certain point, okay, now you're not going to be sitting around the campfire singing songs,
right,
with a musical montage at the end of these episodes.
right.
And they were big about explosive finales. So
Yeah.
some literally,
Most literally, really.
actually, yeah, most literally.
Pretty much every finale, something explodes. That's just part of the deal, you know.
Gotta blow it up.
If you have a finale, we're gonna blow up something.
Something's
But
gonna.
I feel like this pattern is really consistent. Like in season one, you had like I think the close. I mean, obviously you had Christian appearing to Jack. That was early on, and you had like the Deus Ex Machina dream where he sees the plane and stuff, and that that's where you have sort of the bigger players coming to play. But then like at the end of the season, it's about the raft. It's about the others. It's about breaking into the hatch.
Yeah.
Where and this season we have this question mark episode we just came off and the earlier smoke monster stuff, but here in the final episode it's going to be about the others, they want these people and so on, and about like we're not going to push the button in the hatch anymore.
Yeah.
you know and in season 3, like you had a lot of stuff, but I mean you had, for example, the infamous cabin episode. That was just towards the end of the season. But then in the end of the season, it wasn't about that. It was about stopping the others from kidnapping the pregnant women and about contacting the freighter.
Yeah.
And then in season 4, you have the second cabin episode. Again, it's not the finale. The finale is about escaping the island.
Mhm.
Getting off, and
Yeah,
also
it's
like
never leading up to that interesting mystery they put in the middle of the season. Like it doesn't.
yeah.
It's not leading up to that. It's always leading up to some conflict, some character conflict.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like, yeah, what the characters do, and it's usually characters interacting with other characters. Occasionally the big players get involved in the finales, but usually it's very brief.
Hmm.
And they don't play pivotal roles until obviously the end of the show. At that point, it's a bit different. But if you think about those early seasons, they all kind of have that pattern. They put that weird mystery in the middle, and then and the end of the season, it's really not about that at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's even sort of true. Obviously season 5, kind of has it ends with the big Jacob and Man Black reveal.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the exception because they had to tell us that at some point, and
Yeah.
so it sort of makes sense that they told us that in the finale. But I think season 6 actually kind of holds to it because there's a lot of mysteries that they introduce in season 6 that aren't really answered, and the finale is not really about those things at all.
Yeah.
It's not about like what is the island or why are we here, does the sickness exist, blah blah. It's not about any of these things. It's really just about these people want to get off the island. We have to kill Man in Black. Blah blah blah. It's like much more sort of basic task oriented.
Yeah.
So it's. I think I did realize that the action was ramping up, but I kind of thought that there would be answers to go with that. But it's only now looking back that I realized that wasn't really the case.
Well, speaking of that, I think this is a good point to bring up the what we were talking about off podcasts, which was this is the 10-year anniversary of Lost, and
Oh yeah.
the Carlson and Damon and the cast were on the Paley Fest panel, and that made some news the last week or two, with them basically not answering anything. But
As usual.
one of the most interesting things they said, which along with that Lost Writers Guide being very pivotal and understanding the show, I would say this is the and that being the beginning of the ideas for the show. I think this
Yeah.
book ends with that. Well, this whole idea. So one of the things that they said was, I forget the phrasing exactly, so correct me with the phrasing, but they basically said two things. The whole idea of like what they did with the finale was they answered a question nobody asked.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this show, which is a mystery show, which has a lot of questions. Most go unanswered. And what they decide to do with the finale is not answer the big questions they all know everyone is asking, and then maybe even other questions, that are less important but they might want to talk about. They go 180 and they decide to answer two big questions no one was asking, which is what is the meaning of life
Mm-hmm.
and what is the afterlife?
Yeah.
And looking like if you would have told me in the beginning of the show that those are the two questions the show was going to answer, I would just I'd be like, what? Like I'm
Yeah.
going to watch this show and the big question I should be asking is what is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
Because this show is telling me, and it's also going to tell me about the afterlife. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so Carlton and Damon to me to I can't even figure out the right phrasing, but they have this uncanny ability to sort of like know what would satisfy the audience and do the exact opposite in a disproportional amount,
Right.
and it's so classic them that this idea came out that yeah, they decided, okay, we won't answer these big questions that we brought up ourselves. We'll answer two questions that people have been asking forever,
Mm-hmm.
and we won't even tell you that that's what our point is.
Right.
So that's what he said. He said that the ending of Lost had to be a spiritual thing, which is again like something you wouldn't have necessarily expected them
Not
to
at
go
all.
towards. So yeah, so anyway, I thought that was a pretty big revelation. I mean, to just frame the end of the show just with simply saying, okay, these are the two questions we want to answer. And
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, okay, well now I get why you did that.
Yeah. 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 I agree. I didn't really. So there's a couple of like takeaways that I have from that. I mean, well, the first is it kind of makes me ask the question like if the ending of the series like sort of answers the question what's the meaning of life, what does it tell us is the meaning of life? Like is it having a group of people that you bond with or something? Is that
I
what
think
it
it's something
tells us
that
the meaning of life is?
I think it's a little nebulous, but I think it's something about the meaning of life is to have close connections to people,
Yeah.
or maybe there even is more just general examples of how to live or something, morality, of these people making bad decisions and bad things happening, sort of a thing. I don't know. But I think,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe just at the very least, this whole idea of the having these, the meaning of life being having powerful experiences and connections to people.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's I mean, it's interesting and I think not entirely irrelevant in terms of what they told us about the island that like that the meaning of life question would come up at the end of the series. I do wish that they had figured out a way to tie that together a little more with um you know the questions they did ask on the
Hmm.
show. You know what I mean? Like what's the island? And there seems to be a connection between life and what's on the island. And could we somehow make the island relevant to that sort of discussion? Like I think that's one thing that it was kind of weird for me about the ending. It seemed like the island didn't really matter very much. It was more just about, the meaning of life, like, the island's sort of irrelevant in terms of that question.
Well, they missed a lot on the island, right? I mean, they missed making the island relevant to the world, of the
Yeah,
present time. Like,
right.
hey guys, good thing we all landed on the island and had this 6 season adventure because we ended up saving the planet.
Hmm.
That would have been something like that would have been satisfying. And then the
Yeah.
other part of that is hey guys, good thing we were on the island because that gave us, some advantage with the afterlife. Now, I do think
Right.
that you are supposed to think the island mattered because of the flash sideways. I think you could maybe argue that without the island, they wouldn't have had the flash sideways.
Right. So that's the thing. Like my takeaway from this was kind of the opposite. Like the fact that he says, let's see, I actually have it. Yeah, they decide to solve a mystery we never asked. What's the meaning of life, and what happens when you die? So the fact that, I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but the fact that he phrased that in such a generic way, like what happens when you die, and saying that they answered that question, I mean, it suggests to me that that's what happens when everyone dies,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
regardless
So maybe
of.
that's the idea. I think that is supposed to be the idea, like that you always end up in a place where you wait for the people that you're going to move
Yeah,
on with.
exactly. And it just so happened that most of the people they were moving on with were from the island, but
Because I
not
think the
all.
idea is if it weren't for the island, it wouldn't have been those people, right? It would have been other people.
Right, right, right. So they're bonded together sort of around the island, but it didn't. The way he phrases it seems to me like we're not supposed to think that the island is the reason the Flash Sideways exists.
Hmm. No,
But on the
but it's like a yeah. I don't think it is the reason it existed. You're right. Yeah, I think it. Obviously with Desmond and stuff, like there's a way to, the island is connected to that place,
hmm
but it isn't. Yeah, yeah. I think that's supposed to be because they want the meaning to be more universal, right? They don't want it
right,
to be like, well, you can have a flash sideways afterlife if you go crash on the island. It's like no,
exactly,
this is how afterlife works for everybody.
right. And to tie together with this episode, we also had Michael obviously stuck on the island saying uh, he because of what he did and saying he can't move on. And
Hmm.
that's what the whispers are. That's the big answer we get in season 6. That move on thing, I mean, that's explicitly something they say the Flash Sideways is for.
Hmm.
you know and so it that kind of makes a connection between the island and the afterlife, as though there's a relationship between the two, but I feel like they kind of fail to make that clear, you know, or like really tie it together. I mean, is the island responsible or connected directly to everyone's afterlife? I mean, how far does it go? If you do something bad, can you be stuck on the island even if you didn't do that bad thing on the island? Or, you know what I mean? Like, how universal is that part of the story?
Maybe the island is like a doorway, a passage between, normal reality and the first afterlife or whatever. Afterlife stop A and
Mhm.
first floor afterlife. And so if you do something bad on the island, and you sort of get because you have the idea of moving on both as a ghost on the island and as a flash sideways person, right? You
Yeah.
have to realize your mistake or get rid of your guilt or
hmm
whatever you need to do to move on in both cases. So maybe the
Right.
idea is that the island is a passageway in between. And so if you're on the island, you're Michael, you do all this bad stuff, you have this guilt. When you die, you don't get to move on to the flash sideways. You're sort of stuck still here on the island. Whereas like if you were, not on the island, you did the same bad stuff. You're not where that doorway is, so you would just, I guess, move on to the flash sideways and then be really stuck there for a long time
Right.
versus if you're on the island and you somehow you come back. I don't know. It's the best I can do.
No,
Doesn't
I
work that
mean,
well, but there's something there with the island, I think, being a connection, right? And obviously we know it connects even two places on Earth, right?
right.
And then there's supposed to be other pockets around,
hmm
so I think there's other places people can get stuck, and maybe they would even go so far as to say like that's where hauntings come from or something,
hmm
is there's a pocket of energy under that place, and
Right.
and people get stuck there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think. I think that makes sense, and I think based on what we've seen, that's about as logical as you can get with like uh, you know giving it an answer. But
Hmm.
I have to say like it
No, you don't have to say it.
it's sort of it just I think the idea that that was a uh, uh, the idea that that was a universal uh, the idea that that was a universal afterlife is
Hmm.
sort of uh, I guess
A bad example at best, right?
yeah, like I guess it bothers me because it just seems so inconsistent. It seems so unfair. It seems so unjust. Like, are they really saying that the afterlife is totally subjective? And because I thought they sort of made a statement like that before, and I could sort of understand it if this were just a special island thing. The fact that they were on the island, they have this
Hmm.
sort of waiting area where they gather together, and it's all sort of about them.
Hmm.
And Christian does say they made it.
Yeah.
And I don't quite know. Everyone makes their own place, maybe.
Hmm.
And so maybe there's a degree of subjectivity there, but it does seem to me that there are characters like Ben, for example, who have are in the Flash sideways, are not stuck on the island, have the option to move on, but they get the luxury of choosing not to. Whereas what they have done, I mean, from an objective point of view, seems worse to me by
Hmm.
far than what Michael did.
It's probably, but I think it's more about There's, it's not someone punishing you, right? It's more about your personal feelings of moving on, right? And self awareness. I think is the issue. Not like
Right,
there's a court of law that's subjecting you to amount of time because of your crimes.
right, right. Yeah, no, I understand that. It just, yeah, like I know there's no, but it seems like that would be a very sad afterlife, if it's sort of like it's all about how guilty you feel, how much you're going to suffer. Like you determine your own
Well,
degree
that's just
of
like your reality, though, right? I mean, I think I mean, first of all, I don't think any depiction of the afterlife is going to have some issues, but I think that it mirrors sort of the philosophy of our reality anyway, right? You make your own reality. We only assume other people actually exist. We can't really prove it. And I think the idea of people making their own Flash Sideways afterlife is similar to people making their own reality with their, senses. And I mean, yeah, I think it makes sense, but yeah, I don't think it's necessarily that compelling. It doesn't fill me with warmth. It doesn't like it's not like you're gonna go start a religion on this idea of the lost afterlife. Like it's so well thought out or so interesting that way.
right, right. Yeah, it just seems kind of unjust. I mean, I guess like why does the afterlife have to be just? But it's just sort of there's just something off-putting about like Kimi's like totally cool, but like since Michael feels bad, he has to like suffer more. It's just sort of it just seems weirdly like as long as you don't give a shit, you can do whatever you want and your afterlife will be awesome. It's just like really like I don't know.
Mm,
It's just a weird.
well, see, I don't know if it'd be awesome, right? Because I mean, I guess the question is, what do you get in your afterlife? So let's take Kimi. What was he doing? He was still doing the same stuff, right? I mean, he was basically like a criminal guy.
Yeah, he's like some
So
kind of
so
gangster type guy.
so like I guess like he in his afterlife, yeah, he didn't necessarily have any apparently have any guilt over what he did in life. Therefore, he didn't get stuck on the island. We'll just make these assumptions here.
Right,
So in his Flash Sideways, he's just living out another version of criminal life, and presumably he would just do that for all of time until he realizes in the Flash sideways the mistakes he made, and then gets to move on, right? I mean, is that the idea?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, maybe. Yeah, no, you're right.
Because
You're right.
but I'm just trying to make sure that it's not as simple as you can just go do whatever you want. Like you do have to eventually become self-aware in order to move on to the real afterlife, or else you're just stuck in Flash Sideways forever. And then the begs question: was your Flash Sideways cool or not? Like
Right.
maybe it is fun,
Yeah.
maybe it's not. Like
Yeah.
Hitler shouldn't get a fun Flash Sideways and be able to just have fun for eternity and never
Right.
really need to move on and become self-aware.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's true. But then I still wonder what differentiates them from Michael. It's like if you feel extra guilty, you don't even get a Flash Sideways. Like you, like what's
No,
the
I think Michael. See, the interesting thing is, right? The, because the Flash Sideways takes place outside of time, the best thing about the show and the podcast is the great sentences you get to say, things you never thought you actually, words you never thought you'd put together. Since the Flash Sideways takes place out of time, um, um, then when they go back at the end of the show to go get Michael and presumably help him move on, he could, in a way, catch up to them in the Flash Sideways. Now, from what we saw, he's not in their Flash Sideways, right?
right?
But maybe he would get his own Flash Sideways where a version of them is there.
Yeah.
If those are the people he needs to be with, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
I see what you're saying.
good.
I see what you're saying. You're right. Yeah, I guess like with that idea of there is no now, then effectively like everyone who's there could have spent like however long, before that, and we just don't. The time doesn't become a factor. You're there
Yeah,
when you're there.
when Desmond shows up in the Flash Sideways, when he flashes there, where his consciousness flashes the Flash Sideways, like there is no relative point to say how long these people have been in the Flash Sideways, but when he gets there,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, and I do think that uh the I mean, it's a little strange what that implies, but I do think the epilogue thing where they go and get Walt and they say we're going to go help Michael. I mean, it does suggest that they envision a future where that does happen.
Yeah.
Where Michael does sort of get the chance to actually move on. But it still feels a bit like badly defined to me, like what how that whole thing functions, in terms of what decides that you get trapped on the island for a while versus living out your Flash Sideways forever, in maybe a bad way or something, like what is that?
So I would now request that you provide a version of the afterlife that does make sense. And any other literature or philosophy that you could find.
Well, that's a fair point. It's a fair point.
But no, again, I mean, like, yeah, it's really, like most things on the show, if you drill down deep enough, you're gonna find the problems. And yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I think Michael is a special case. He's an example of, they use him as an example for certain things, but I think he's not, he's his own case.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a problem because they're also using him, like you said. I mean, they're using him to answer a mystery they did ask, by the way.
Now you have a question now if they ask that.
and so I kind of think that I feel like that confuses the issue a bit. Um, but if I'm being fair, like yeah, I'll say. I mean, it is hard to come up with sort of a consistent, reasonable like vision of the afterlife. And also, if I'm being generous, I'll say that you know. I tip my hat to them for trying to tackle such a big subject. I mean,
without anyone asking.
without anyone asking. Literally,
Nobody
no one
asked.
was asking for
Literally,
that.
nobody asked them to do this. We probably would have told them not to if
Yes,
given the choice.
it's a bad idea, but like
That's
the fact that they were like, no, we're gonna do this.
Yeah, and I feel like it changes the whole context of whether or not the ending of Lost was good or bad. Like everyone is like, oh yeah, it was really shitty, but I feel like it's like,
Hmm.
but guys, they're trying to tell us the meaning of life and what happens after you die. Like,
Yeah,
what other show was doing that? You
yeah,
know,
totally.
Friday Night Lights was really like was really about that. Like
Yeah,
it's really kind of crazy that they would, I feel like it was under the radar. Like even though that was obviously their answer, that's what they gave us was the spiritual sort of summing up of things. I think the fact that it was about death and death is naturally about these spiritual ideas, that it was kind of like, oh, okay, we see why they did that. But just from a overall high level perspective, to say we're going to answer these two questions on an action mystery show,
yeah,
we're going to give you definitive answers, is pretty crazy. Nebulous definitive answers.
yeah. But still, like more definitive than most answers that people give to those
Hmm.
questions.
Yeah.
I mean, it is strange that they couldn't tell us what was going on with the cabin, but they could tell us the meaning of life. It's like,
Yeah.
really?
It's like who's on the outrigger? We can't tell you. What happens after you die? Oh, we got a whole thing laid out,
Well,
guys. The whole multi-step process here.
well, now that one's easy. Like, it's like, what? Like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's hard for me to understand. But yeah, that impulse. I mean, that kind of subverting the audience's desires and expectations. I mean, there's something I appreciate about that, even though I don't necessarily like the result.
It's in the same vein of Nikki and Paulo. It's the same vein of
Yeah,
kind of like that starting with that connection with the audience, and sort of being aware or wondering what they want, and either giving it to them or not, or giving it to them in a way that sucks, or that is counterintuitive or something. Like
yeah,
yeah, they're really good about that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's strange. It's strange because I feel like most shows don't have that degree of this weird back and forth, you know, relationship with the audience,
Hmm.
where they hear what the audience says and they react to it,
Yeah.
and you can see that reaction in the show, and then that loops back on them, and it goes back and forth, but then they have the final word because they tell you the meaning of life in the afterlife. you know so it's like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do now, audience?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and maybe it's funny you phrase it like that, because I feel like that might help explain the vehement reaction, is that
Yeah,
having a 6-year cycle back and forth between the show and the audience, and then that being cut off with the show being over, and then like
yeah,
the final word is supremely authoritative on these huge issues, and
yeah.
then the audience has no way to talk
They
back to
can't come
them.
back. Yeah,
And so,
exactly.
wow, I feel like that might explain why the show got such the ending gets such a bigger reaction than it's even warranted. I think
Yeah.
because it's like, we're used to talking back to you, now we can't, and you did this, so
Hmm.
now we're really just gonna be vocal as possible.
Yeah. No, I feel like that sounds really true. now that it's said out loud.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like, wow, that's because we've been wondering, like, just why the disproportionate
Yeah.
response.
Yeah. No, and I think the audience did grow accustomed to being able to influence to talk to the creators in some way and to have their voice heard. And at the end of the show, there was no room for that anymore.
Yeah.
And they were just left with these big, crazy proclamations and no way to sort of add anything to the discussion after that. And like in the old days, there were podcasts and there were panels and there were all these forums where they could, let their opinions be heard. And it was clear from when Damon and Carlton would speak in public, like they had some awareness of a lot of the things that people were saying, and they would, respond to those things directly. And it's so crazy in the show when you have those meta moments, where it's like, like the Hurley bird is an example of that, which we're going to see really soon. Like we saw it in the season 1 finale, and then because some crazy person thought the bird said Hurley, they actually made the bird say Hurley.
Yeah, and then you have to go, and then then if you're watching the show, and that's when the show gets hard to decipher because there's so many of these out of show influences.
Yeah.
Because you'd want to just watch the show and go, oh, well, that's the island making him say Hurley, or that's Man in Black dressed up as, looking like a bird saying Hurley, or any crazy conspiracy theory. And it's kind of like, no, they just did that because of the fan thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then Hurley's like, did that bird say my name? And it's like, it's this crazy... it's this crazy sort of response to the fans where it's like they acknowledge it on the show directly, where the characters even realize.
The character even knows, yeah.
That's what he said, and it's like, oh my god, Hurley himself hears his name, It's like, what? And it's of no consequence, really, which is one of the reasons why they can do it, but it's like, it's true. Like, you can't really turn that into a theory.
Yeah.
Because
you could easily turn to a theory because it goes along with Sawyer's tree frog.
Right.
It goes along with the boar. It goes along with all these the polar bear, all these other animals that are strange on the island.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point. And I do feel like that was a thing that they never really addressed, which would have been nice. I think in the Nikki and Paulo episode, they did something which I think was completely bizarre and unnecessary, and they sort of tied together the smoke monster with the spiders that killed it.
Yeah. I still don't get that.
Yeah, how weird is that? Like whereas the other animals never quite get that explicit of a thing where we actually see them and hear a smoke monster sound or something where they tell us, and obviously there's the Vincent theory that held water for a pretty long time. And maybe still does.
I'm still holding out hope, man. Still holding out hope.
Because I agree. Like, no, but I mean, they tried to answer the Hurley bird in the epilogue, and they answer. It's kind of like the polar bears. It's like, oh, it's just like a weird bird,
just another animal. Yeah,
you're welcome. Like, it's weird when the answer is like that. It's weird when the answer is just like, oh yeah, that. Why is there a bird on the island? Because they brought a bird there.
Yeah, it's like, why was there quarantine written on the hatch? Oh, there's somebody found some paint and a stencil. And they just happened to write quarantine.
And they painted it on there.
Yeah.
It's like, why did you expect it to be more complicated than that?
Yeah, that's when it's like shame on you for thinking it was more interesting.
Yeah. It was actually another version of that was the numbers on the hatch, when they go in season 5 and they're just like, hey, what's serial number?
Yeah.
And like random Dharma guy number 2, is like, oh, yeah, it's the numbers, and no one cares.
Nope, not a big deal. There's
It's
no
just
secrecy. There's no monumental occasion. Like, oh man, we're putting the numbers on the hatch. All downhill from here. Like,
yeah. It's just like another day at work. Like they're putting their serial number stamp like they do on everything that they build for Dharma.
Yeah.
There's always a serial number, and this time it's that one. Oh well. I mean, the number has to be something.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes it seem like it's just a coincidence, you know, and that
It
the
is just,
numbers.
yeah, that it's just a strange coincidence that the number randomly placed on the hatch is the same number you need to push into the
Hmm.
button. You
Right.
know,
Yeah, it makes it seem to me like if there were an answer for the numbers, like the numbers are just about. I know there's the Valenzetti equation, okay, but like putting that aside, this it could even be included in this if you like. But the numbers are just about like fate or coincidence or both or something like that, and
mhm.
like they just come in and they repeat themselves because they represent the idea of you know
It's almost like they represent the idea of mistaking coincidence for fate.
yeah.
It's like they represent the
Exactly.
idea of random chance seeming like coincidence.
Yeah,
So it's like
seeming like
every
it
time you
means something.
yeah, every time you see the numbers, you should think that doesn't mean anything. That and
Yes.
if that's what they mean by that, that's really awesome. Again, it's such a weird and very typical thing to kind of that's such a weird thing to represent, you know, like let's somehow personify in a way random chance and this whole idea of putting meaning on things you shouldn't put
Right.
meaning on
Right.
by having this number reappear everywhere and being meaningful when it appears.
Right.
And that's actually really interesting because isn't that the last thing we get on the numbers, right? Is that they were just there was nothing special about them from because I think is that the beginning most that should be the beginning most part of the numbers like chronologically is when they're put on the hatch, right?
Uh yeah, I guess so.
So I'm not thinking about the Valenzetti equation. That's out of the show kind of a thing.
Right, right.
But
Yeah,
but if
I don't really count that
if
either.
you think chronologically, the first time we see the numbers is when they're just put on the hatch as just a serial number.
Mhm.
So and over time they gain more significance by people who don't understand the origin, which
Right.
is the exact same pattern of everything else on the island, right?
Yeah.
It's the exact same pattern of, oh, somebody said one day we should do this, so we did it for 100 years,
Yeah.
but we don't really know if it's true or valid or how much meaning we should place on this thing. So
Right.
so that's actually really interesting because yeah, the way the show plays out, we see the numbers when they have all this mystery about them, but what the show tells us last is that they're meaningless.
Right.
And I feel like
Yeah.
even though that seems like what they the sort of outline of how they displayed the numbers, I feel like that should tell us they're meaningless, but somehow it seems
Right.
like they mean something still.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know?
exactly. I mean, I sort of didn't want to believe it because I had been invested in the mystery of the numbers for so long, and it just seemed like a letdown. It seemed like an opportunity to reveal something where they chose not to tell us anything. But maybe the point is they did tell us something,
Hmm.
and that something was, yeah, it's all about, and in a way, like the whole show is about this idea of like seeing something and giving it an interpretation or using your own uh, point of view to determine what something means,
Yeah.
like because that's all you have. And so like you see these numbers, or Hurley has these experiences with these numbers, and he interprets that the numbers are the thing causing the things happening to him,
Yeah.
you know but like it might just be that he had a lot of bad luck and the numbers appeared and he just inferred that there was
Hmm.
a connection between the two, but maybe there wasn't one.
Yeah.
you know and it's really just about, it represents the idea of uh the way he puts a sort of order on his life
Hmm.
where there really isn't any.
Yeah,
you
he's
know
looking for the cause of his bad luck and he's
yeah.
assigning it to the numbers where he could almost just as easily, anytime something bad happens, he could look at a tree and goes, "Man, every
Hmm.
time something bad happens to me, I see a
I
tree,
see a tree,
and
yeah.
therefore the
It's the
trees are
trees.
cursed." Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
cursed by the
yeah.
tree.
Exactly.
But the
Exactly.
numbers,
Because
but the numbers are so, being numbers, they're more symbolic. So
right.
you can attach meaning to it like that more easily.
Right. Exactly. And like you never have
I feel like we're
um
fundamentally breaking down the show right now.
I did too.
Like I feel like
I did
we're
too.
cracking it open and seeing what it's made of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it actually feels to me it actually feels to me like kind of a breakthrough about the numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
So
I
last week we solved the
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 psychic.
psychic. Yeah, we cracked the psychic. This week we're cracking the numbers.
Yeah, and I mean the answer is sort of weird. I mean, in the psychic case, it was a bit more like, you know, like it tied into the plot in a more like reasonable way.
Hmm.
In this case, it's more about grander themes that the show's trying to address. But I think that makes sense
Yeah.
for sort of the role the numbers play in the story. But I think it's definitely notable that you're right. Like the final reveal of the numbers was the stamping of them on the hatch, and I think um, I think it's clear that uh, uh, that we we aren't supposed to give them any big significance from that scene. And when we see them again in season 6, in the cave or something, they're shrugged off.
Hmm.
Man in Black just says, "Oh yeah, Jacob had a thing for numbers, whatever," and it's just a coincidence that the last 6 end up being the candidates. But there's even exceptions to that. Like Kate, it was number like 51 or something.
Hmm.
She wasn't even in that list, and
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, she was crossed off, but she's definitely one of them. And so it's like, it doesn't fit the pattern, but let's ignore it because we only notice the things that fit the pattern, you
Exactly.
know?
Pattern bias.
Yeah, exactly. Like anything that confirms the thing we're expecting is the thing that we'll remember. And we'll forget about the stuff that doesn't fit,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's like, and Jacob never says, "Oh yes, the numbers, they're part of my plan."
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
it's never a thing, you know, that anyone insists on as being in the afterlife. Christian's not like you had to protect the numbers, Jack. Like there's no.
Did you bring them with you? What? The numbers, Jack. You're supposed to bring the numbers with you. Oh, that'd be great if the numbers were trapped on the island this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about the Losties getting the numbers off the island.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Oh, and another thing, if I remember correctly, they didn't. I don't think they showed this in the show, but I think in the Comic-Con the year before season 6, they had a couple of like little short sort of teaser scenes for the Flash Sideways.
uh-huh.
Because at that time, of course, they wanted to make people think that it was an alternate universe that they created by the exploding the bomb.
Yeah.
And but one of them, if I remember correctly, one of them involves Hurley, and it's about him winning the lottery, and he wins the lottery in the Flash Sideways with different numbers,
Mm. Okay.
which I feel like it sort of adds to the idea that the numbers didn't really mean anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and that it was just
And
a
yeah,
coincidence.
exactly. And what matters is that he won the lottery and that he will likely have misfortunes, and he ties the great fortune from the numbers to the misfortune of the circumstance. He puts those together and says,
Right,
well, the numbers is what binds these two things. So that's the
right.
reason. But yeah, that's such a huge theme on the show is perception and perspective and putting what do you put meaning on? That's Locke's whole journey right there. It's
Absolutely.
Locke's whole life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um and even specifically like what you said before about perspective, and it's like some people look at Smokey and see a smoke monster. Locke looks at it, he sees something beautiful.
Right.
Like just in a specific case like that. So yeah, that whole idea, the whole idea that the numbers could represent, um, it's such a weird thing to say. Okay, every time you see this thing, you should imagine you're seeing something else because that's the meaning. You
Yeah.
know, like these consistent numbers represent random numbers. You know,
Right.
like that's such a weird idea.
It's a very strange idea. It's a very, very strange idea. And yeah, like in the afterlife, Hurley views himself as a lucky person and, is not cursed,
Hmm.
and the numbers are different, but he doesn't give any significance to the numbers. He doesn't say, well, it's because these numbers are so lucky that my life is good.
Yeah.
Like there's no idea of that in his head at that point.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Where did he hear the numbers from when he was in the mental institution and
Right.
under these strange circumstances?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So
And
yeah,
it's
so that
like,
that definitely is
ooh,
making a case. Yeah, that is such a huge part of the show. That whole idea of mystery, a mystery being built on top of nothing.
yeah,
And then when you unravel it, you see that it was just the number that he had on his clipboard at the time, and it could have
right.
been any number.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it just kind of echoes through like various characters and various situations,
Hmm.
but it originates there,
Yeah.
because it's that transmission that guy hears who goes to the mental institution.
Walter or somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the thing. If he obviously had a mental issue. If his mental issue made him repeat, the alphabet or something, it'd be a
Hmm.
completely different situation.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah. It
know,
could have ended up being the magical letters,
exactly.
you
He could have
know.
been, yeah, he could have just been reciting letters and yeah, then we look for letters everywhere, like
Yeah,
or
exactly.
yeah.
And it's like there are only so many digits. If you look for something, you'll find it,
Mhm.
like especially if it's something as common as a few numbers.
Yeah.
It's like it's flight 815. Okay, cool, it's numbers, but like there's no 4, there's no 16. It's
Mhm.
like, you know, and then like Ajira was 316.
Yeah.
It's not even 4.
Mhm.
So it's like, does that count? It's like
But
it's
but
not
then
even.
but then 316 becomes a special loss number.
Right.
And then it's like you got 108, the super number,
Mm-hmm.
so
Right. Right. Yeah, totally, totally. But that's just, yeah, it's like a derivative number from the numbers, but it's like, who cares if you add them up,
Mhm.
like why does that matter? I mean, and I feel like, again, it's not really answered in the show, like why Dharma chose to use those numbers so many fucking times for so many different things,
Yeah.
seemingly unrelated. Like the transmission, the code in the computer, the serial number, the time on the clock. It's just like,
Mhm.
why is it involved? And so that's why you want to say, like, it has to mean something,
Yeah. It's at
you know?
least it's at least specific to the Swan, right? So at least
Yeah.
it's encapsulated in that one area, and it's not like, well, they use the numbers at this station and that station and off island,
Right.
and it's mostly about the Swan. So
That's true.
something was going on there. I guess it's like the numbers on the hatch came first, seems like. But maybe, the numbers tied into the coordinates of that spot where the energy
Hmm.
was, and it just coincidentally, and maybe that's the thing with the computer. Like, maybe that's all you're doing with the computer is just putting in the serial number of the Swan. Like, that's all it is.
Oh,
Like that's
yeah.
that's like the password for the Swan. It's just
Right.
that's it. It's a serial number, just like you might use your
Yeah.
address as your password or something.
Sure, 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 sure. Yeah,
And
no,
that's
that
all
would
it.
make sense.
And what the computer does is something very specific, but it doesn't matter what the numbers are. What
Yeah,
matters
yeah, yeah.
is that you enter the password,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the
No, and I
password
mean
is
that's what he says in the video. Like, you enter the code. It's just a thing that you have to enter so the computer knows that, you know, you're cleared from security. You know the right,
mhm. So it can
thing to get
so it can
access.
perform whatever function it needs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, of course, that leaves aside the classic problem, which is just, why didn't they just write a program that like entered those numbers every 108 minutes automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like that should have been easier. Like, there's no real need to have a human do that. But okay, that aside,
Yeah, that's other, we don't want to go down that road.
that's there are potential answers for that, but that's sort of a separate thing. But I do think the fundamental thing of the numbers being about, like, how you impose order on randomness,
Mm-hmm.
and how that ties into the show as a whole. I mean, even Jacob and Man in Black, like, have elements of this in terms of their own understanding of who they are and what
Well, and
the
that's the
island
crux. That's the
is.
crux of their bet, right? Are,
Yeah,
are humans random and uncontrollable and evil, or are they capable of order and goodness, and that's the crux of their argument.
yeah, it's true. That's true. Yeah, no, that's a good point. But, like, also their own, like, understanding of their own lives, and, like,
Oh yeah,
who
yeah, yeah.
who their mother is, what the island is, what that source is, what is he when he becomes the smoke monster? Why does he have to stay there? And
Mm.
all these things seem to be things that they kind of impose on the situation because of their own interpretations, and
And it's funny because it even goes so far, that this concept goes so far as into Locke running Sun into the tree. I
yeah.
didn't run you from your perspective. I ran you into the tree. From my perspective, you ran into the tree on your own.
Right,
You
right,
know, and yeah, it's like, why does some people think he's evil incarnate, and he has no idea what they're talking about?
right.
Like, he laughs that off, and it's kind of like,
Yeah,
is it really just as simple as, well, it's just a matter of perspective,
right,
and there is
right,
no objective truth here about his evilness.
right.
Is he capable of doing bad things? Sure, but does that mean, like, the evil in the cave got trapped on him, and he's
Right.
walking around with it like so much tissue on the bottom of your shoe?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it could go both ways. I mean, I feel like it could be uh, that, like you say, people interpret him as evil, and you know that's why he becomes considered that way. But from his perspective, that's ridiculous. I mean, I think probably in any case, from his perspective, that's ridiculous. But I think it could also be that he's just not aware, of his own evil. Like, he can't really see it.
Yeah,
Because from his point of view, what he wants is very reasonable. And
yeah.
also, no one explains to him,
He doesn't,
you know?
and that's the thing. He doesn't understand why he can't get it. Like, I feel like that's the frustrating part for his character is, yeah, no one explains to him the consequences of him leaving, and he never gets to
Right,
actually hear that and say, well, I don't care. That's what
right.
makes me evil, is I don't care what happens.
Yeah,
Like, he
exactly.
never really gets to explain that part of the plan.
And I think that would have made his story more satisfying, but at least from the point of view of, like, this general thing about, you know, not really not really understanding what's going on, but just having your own limited point of view, and, like, throwing your best interpretation on it. I mean, from his point of view, it was like, why can't I just fucking leave?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is wrong with you people? It's like he's in this crazy, you know, he's been put in this kind of, this classic, wrongly accused,
Yeah.
maybe mental asylum or something. Like, the whole world's gone crazy, and he's the only sane person who's just
Mm-hmm.
like, why are you people all trying to trap me here? Like, this
Yeah.
makes no sense,
Yeah.
you know? And like, from his point of view, like, that is really frustrating, and the
What if
fact that he
he?
has to spend centuries trying to, like, get off.
I just had an idea. What if when he's smoking, he doesn't know what he's doing? What if he doesn't remember any of that? Now, I don't think it's possible that that's true, but I was
Yeah, see,
just.
that's the thing. Like, I remember thinking about that, and I think there is some truth to the idea that when he's smoky, he's less in control
Hmm.
of himself. Like, he's more given to these sort of wild attacks and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
think we are supposed to believe that, like, more so than when he is in human form. I think there's something about being in that form that makes him, you know, more wild. It's sort of reminds me of like a,
Like the
if I
Hulk.
may, like a, yeah, or like a werewolf or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's sort of like when they transform, they have this uncontrollable urge to do things, and like it's not as though they're completely out of control, but they have these urges,
Hmm.
that are like harder to stop than, when they're in human form. So I feel like there's that. But I mean, he did so many things deliberately as the smoke monster that I feel like he did have some degree of control over it.
Yeah.
Because we had several scenes where he very specifically targeted certain individuals, and he definitely seemed to be able
No, I'm
to.
just saying, what if he doesn't remember though afterwards?
Oh, but I mean, it seems. Well, I guess, yeah. That's kind of
I mean,
interesting.
I don't think it's true, but I just
Yeah,
thought, if he's so confused on why people think he's bad, if maybe he doesn't know what he's doing when he's smoky. Like after it happens, he's like, oh wait, where did I go? I must have been asleep.
see, that's a really interesting idea. Like, I can almost see that. I mean, I feel like there are points where he, yeah, yeah, no, I feel like he has to have some awareness about what he did, but maybe I think if they wanted to convey that, I wish they had, because I feel like that could actually be an interesting conflict for his character.
Hmm.
If when he goes into smoke form, like he just does stuff and then just forgets.
Yeah, like once he turns back into human form, like he doesn't remember what happened.
Yeah, yeah,
Much
yeah.
like werewolves.
Right, right. Exactly, exactly. I feel like there's some truth to that, but I do think literally he's got to remember some of it, or at least like, I mean, a lot of times he comes out and he sees the aftermath of what he just did,
Hmm.
so like he must know just from looking at what he sees.
Yeah.
Like when he attacked all the people in the statue, and then he transforms back and he goes, "Sorry, you had to see me like that." I
Hmm.
mean, it seemed like he knows what he just did.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know what I mean? Or when he attacked the temple, like it seems as though he's aware of what just happened.
Hmm.
You know, but I think at the same time there is a suggestion of a degree of truth that like when he's in that form, he is much more wild.
Yeah.
And I would be inclined to say that he controls himself much more when he's in human form.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, but yeah, but even if he knows everything he does as a smoke monster, I mean, I still think he's not really given enough information
Hmm.
to for him to like really understand and to say either, okay, I realize I'm evil and that's why I need to stay here because I don't want the whole world to end
Hmm.
by my presence being out there. Or if he really is evil, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And it makes it clearer why we have to stop him,
Yeah.
you know? Because like we see the evil influencing him.
But see, it's not about whether or not he's evil. It's about our interpretation of
Right.
evil.
And that's the
So,
problem. That's the problem. And I feel like that's what's difficult about it. I guess that makes it classic Lost that like even their evil incarnate is like not obviously evil.
yeah,
And we have
that'd be too
to
easy.
it's like some people call him evil incarnate and other people are just like, well, I don't really see that.
Hmm.
And Locke thinks he's beautiful. you know so it's like, yeah, I mean, I, I really feel like Jacob, since he clearly did have the interpretation that he was evil, I feel like he owed him the explanation. I mean, certainly, I know initially, after the tragedy that happened between their family and stuff, I'm sure like they didn't really get along very well for a long time. But after like 1,000 years, you know, I feel like he should have been able to tell him like, look, when I threw you into that cave, something happened to you. You're different now. Like I can tell, you know, and
Yeah, I mean, how many conversations did they have about Man in Black wanting to leave? I mean,
exactly.
so
And he's like, I don't think it's safe for you to leave. Like, like it's not clear that he ever told him
you don't
that.
think he showed him the cork in the bottle and gave him the analogy?
I don't think so. I mean, at least the show didn't give me the impression that he did.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he does give him the bottle in that one episode, but it's sort of not clear that he even knows what that means.
But that's the thing, and then Man in Black smashes the bottle,
Yeah,
which seems to
yeah,
suggest I know what this means, and I'm gonna break
yeah,
out of here.
yeah.
Yeah, but you can't be sure that he knows what that means. I don't know.
That's the thing. It's like Jacob's just being enigmatic. Here's this wine bottle. Figure out what you think that means.
Yeah. And where is he getting wine from?
Oh, don't ask that. He has like a vineyard somewhere.
Oh, Jacob's Vineyard. So that's why
Jacob's vineyard.
That's why he was so. It's behind Jacob's cabin. That's why he was so hands off, right? He was busy with his winery.
Man, that's a really good point that never bothered me. Where did he get that wine? Man, that's weird.
Well, I guess
that never bothered
the same
me.
place he had the tapestries, right? I mean, he had a lot of
Yeah.
weird stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, he did leave the island sometimes, but it's kind of weird if he
like it's a Sonoma import. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the Valley. Yeah.
He leaves the island to like import wine. Like, really? Are we really supposed to believe that? But on the other hand, like, what other answer could there be? I mean, like, it doesn't. Can he just manifest wine? Is that one of his Jacob powers? Like, I shall create wine. Like, like, I don't think we're supposed to believe that. Yeah, right. That would be a little too Jesus.
Jesus is like, I got that trademarked, man. It's one of mine.
You can do it, but you're gonna have to pay up.
Exactly. You gotta pay those royalty fees. All right, you want to start the episode? So we made a lot of good progress here. I think
I think so.
We fundamentally understand more about Lost now than we did before this podcast.
I agree. It's strange.
Which is pretty impressive to be able to say at this point in the Lost Lowdown.
Totally.
After 300 plus hours, we're still making some headway here.
I'm amazed that we're having insights, but on still about the show,
Yeah. Well, and it does help that we're still getting new info, right? Because that whole thing that you said about the two answers
it made a big difference.
Yeah.
It set off that whole train of thought. But I think another thing I would say is that I mean, there was that whole Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour theory or something, and I know we haven't podcasted for 10,000 hours.
You're saying the expert thing is happening.
Yeah, but I feel like we probably have spent more time thinking about this show than most people have,
mm-hmm.
And so I feel like there's a certain logic to the idea that we can actually come to good conclusions about what's going on because we have so much of it in our mind and we're thinking about it so often.
Yeah.
Even years after it's over, we're still talking about it, So I feel like there's something like that going on where it's somehow starting to collect in some kind of, we're starting to understand what we watched after all this time.
Yeah.
And seeing especially I think seeing the big picture, seeing the big ideas that they really portrayed most clearly in the series.
Yeah, that's a huge part is the big themes that they're working with and how they and how obvious they are that you don't really notice they're there, and then it's like, oh, they keep doing this all the time.
Yeah. And that's what's so strange about it because they when you see it, when you notice it, it seems really obvious. But I think we really tend to spend most of our time, and the stuff interests me as well, on a lot of much smaller things.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Like
really little
where did the
details.
pallet job come from?
Exactly.
You know, why does
Exactly.
the shark have a Dharma logo on it?
Yes,
You
exactly.
know,
Like,
it's
is there a connection between the pallet drop and the lockdown? You know,
because if
like,
we understand that, we'll understand the entire show, right?
right.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
weird. It's weird, and then it's so we harp on that kind of stuff, yet we don't step back and go, okay, well, what are they fundamentally saying about the nature of reality here, and
Right.
about life and morality, and because that's where the big answers come from.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And they're openly saying in public that, yeah, we actually wanted to answer those questions,
Yeah,
you know. And that really tells you that, you know, uh, that's the right way to look at what this show is about, you know, as a whole. And I think when I think about it that way, and I think about something like the pallet drop and the lockdown, it's sort of like it's up to you to decide whether they're connected or not.
hmm
You know, you can make an argument for either one if you want.
yeah. And it's
You
funny
know,
because that puts you in the exact same position the Lossies are in if you do it that
yeah,
way. Instead of trying to like, we want the objective answer because we want to
yeah,
know what's true, but
right,
the point, it seems, in a lot of these cases is it's not about what's true. It's about
right,
what you think.
yeah, exactly, exactly, and that can be very frustrating, but it's kind of interesting, and also like, you know, that is kind of the way, you know, life is most of the time. You know, you have such a small uh, point of view
Yeah.
compared to everything that's going on in the world, but you have to decide what things mean and what you think is going on in a lot of situations,
hmm
and it's based on limited information, you
Yeah.
know. And so everyone has it, and sometimes they do tell us like the answer is this, you know, but other times but sometimes
And it
certain,
never it most likely never has the meaning that you want it to have. And
right.
what I was going to say earlier is with the numbers is we're so used to the ending answer being satisfying and being big, right? So when we get to what we think is a final answer on the numbers, which is really the first answer on the
Mhm.
numbers, and it's so underwhelming, you go, oh wow, that then it kind of undercuts all the meaning you placed on the numbers before.
Right.
Instead of looking at it and going, well, the meaning was kind of misplaced because we saw these things out of order.
Right.
you know um,
Right.
and so that's really interesting to think about. And then the other thing I was going to say was, when Charlie has his first big line, guys, where are we?
Mhm.
The fundamental question being, what is the island?
Right.
I wish someone would have said, Jacob would have said, you're asking the wrong question. The
Mhm.
question is, what is life?
Right.
What is reality, and what happens after we die? Like
Yeah.
asking what the island is will only get you halfway there if you're lucky,
Yeah.
which is not something I would have thought was true before today.
Yeah, me either.
It's so not about the island.
No, it's really not. That's true. This is true. It makes it, I mean, when you put it on such a grand stage next to questions like what's the meaning of life, it seems insignificant.
Mm. Yeah.
You know? It's like, and so then you can, then from that point of view I can sort of understand why they did the ending they did,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? Because it's like yeah, the island, well, I mean, it's something. We showed you what we showed you, but here's what the meaning of life is.
Yeah. 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 Yada 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 island, but
Yeah,
nevertheless, this is what reality. This is what happens when you die.
yeah, exactly. The island becomes like the power drop and the lockdown. It's like maybe there's a connection, maybe there isn't. Maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't. But
Mm,
you know, here's a real answer.
yeah.
Here's an answer that matters.
Well, not even that. Here's a real question.
Yeah, 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 that too.
Yeah. Here's the question you should be asking.
Exactly. Yeah. And here's an important question.
that's so crazy to the idea of like watching a show and going, well, the whole time I was watching this show, I really should have been asking, what's the nature of reality? And
Yeah.
and why do I place meaning on things? And how do I control things by placing meaning on them? It's like I'm trying to think of watching Dexter and going, well,
Hmm.
really, that's what this is all about. What happens when you die, and you know what this whole life thing is about.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Dexter. Oh my God. Yeah, no, I would never say that about Dexter. I don't know what Dexter's about, but it's not about that.
Oh, Dexter, indeed. Okay. Anything else on Lost in general? You want to get to the podcast here, to the episode?
No, let's go ahead. Yeah, let's do the episode.
Okay, so let's go on to 3 minutes.
All right.
Everybody, get your players ready. Sync up with us here. Let me know when you're ready.
All right. I believe I am ready.
Alrighty. Let's see. Here you go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The others who took my boy, the others who raided our ship.
The others who burned the raft. Oh wait.
Yeah. Oh, not that one. They would have though,
They're worse off than we are. They have a hatch,
which is just a door.
which might be a fetch.
Literally, that's what they have as a door.
That's all they have.
So he was right.
Yeah, in that case, it was
That
the
was the
truth.
only correct usage of hatch. It's really Jack was
I
saying
love that
no.
Jack.
Did you see
Jack
that?
asked-
He was saying, did you see Walt? He was shaking his head no.
He was shaking his head no.
Like, you better
was-
say no.
That was so weird. Man,
Maybe he
That
was
was-
thinking, maybe it was like, he knows that Michael didn't see him because he came back without him, kind of or something.
Yeah.
Maybe that's kind of a weird actor thing to do.
yeah.
Can I borrow a gun? When you take your watch out your pocket and look at it, oh, so hard to break. Yeah, Michael's not very good at this, and I don't know if that's Harold Perrineau being a good actor or what, but he's really good at making Michael seem like he's barely able to pull this off.
Yeah, he did accomplish a nice TV show bonk.
Yeah, but even that seemed like it barely worked. There's just something.
Yeah.
Weird. It's not very expert. And I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
if that's just natural or if he's doing that as an actor.
Right. I mean, it makes sense because the character definitely doesn't have a lot of experience with situations.
Yeah.
So I think, coming off our previous conversation, I feel like now looking at another unanswered mystery, which is to say who's speaking right now on this computer. I kind of want to take it the same way. Like, maybe it's Walt, maybe it's the others.
It's like, well, there's two ways to look at it. You can look at it like the old school way and just say, listen, there's no way it's Walt, right? It's just there's no way.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense if it's Walt.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can look at it the new way and go, yeah, it doesn't really actually matter.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I
Go ahead.
I think it's a bit odd that Michael never asks him about it,
Mm-hmm.
But there's just no there's just kind of no question on or the others or anybody. Like there's sort of no on-screen questioning of like who was I talking to, by the way? You
Well, I
know?
mean, but is that to be expected? Because Michael sort of knows he was talking to Walt. Walt doesn't necessarily know Michael was talking to anybody,
Right.
and the others should know Michael was talking to them.
Right.
So no one needs to really ask anything, right?
That's a good point.
I mean, I understand like you kind of want the verification,
Yeah.
but I feel like they did it in a way where you don't have to ask that question
Right.
because it's more convenient not to.
But I guess I feel like given what happens to Michael when he gets there and the fact that the others like get him in on this scheme, I mean I feel like he could have asked himself afterwards, I wonder who I was talking to.
I feel like if they could have easily, if they wanted to tell us the answer, they could have made it come up, and it would have been very organic, like
Yeah.
for them to just bring it up and then actually tell us.
Yeah. But yeah, they didn't want to do that.
I'm a little confused now. So Michael told them he knows where they are because he just came
Hmm.
from seeing them,
No.
but he just went on the computer to find out where they were.
No, that was a flashback. That was that because at the beginning they said it was 13 days ago.
Oh, that's right.
That was before he left.
Oh, that's how he knew where to find them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so now he's got that list that he burned, and now he's going to try to take them out there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is all so Ben could get back surgery?
Yeah.
Let's just put this in perspective here. This is because Ben couldn't find a better way to ask Jack to do his back surgery.
It's true. It's true. No, you're totally right. It's kind of ridiculous when you put it that way, but also it's very lost.
Yeah, it is.
But like that's what this was all about.
Like he could
Ben
have
wants
just,
back
sent him an
surgery.
Evite,
Exactly.
but they didn't have the computer system set up, so he had to go to this. This was the only other option.
Yep. Option 1, Evite. Option 2,
Yeah,
diabolical scheme.
yeah, multi-week diabolical scheme. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really is a crazy scheme. When you unwrap it,
God,
it's
so
like
they're doing these like intra island flashbacks.
yeah, back and forth. Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
kind of strange because they don't do this very often. Actually, if I remember right, let me see. Am I wrong about this? No, I guess there was maternity leave. Maybe this is the second episode where this happens.
You're really good at that. My brain would be like, I can tell you generally speaking, but I couldn't pinpoint the episode.
I was just thinking back to flashbacks, and I was like,
Yeah, I was
What?
thinking other 48 days.
"Oh, Other 48." Yeah, but I guess the thing about Other 48 Days is it's all in the past, whereas
Yeah,
this is going back and forth.
yeah, okay. Hey, you peeing there?
Oh no. Where's the meth?
Where's the what?
this is what's his name from this is Pickett, but it's also what's his name from Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, totally.
What was that guy's name?
I don't remember.
Frank? No. Uh
Oh, this. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was just too. We were like, wow, who the fuck are the others?
Yeah.
Because he just David and Goliath this guy. Or
It
whatever
was
the hell
crazy
was.
that he had I don't even know what you call that thing,
I
but
think we talked about that. We of course talked about that, and I think
Yes.
we looked it up, and I think it's something like sticking stones or something like.
Stone.
It's something like rope and ball. It's something like it's like whatever it is. I think. It's what they
Okay.
call it. I think
You just
that's what my memory tells me. We fucking
Yeah.
did.
No, that sounds true.
You know when they say stick and stones can break my bones, that's what they mean. Finally, we know that's the stick and stones.
You're right though. Totally, it totally sells the others as like these jungle like native people.
I mean, they did have guns, but he also
Yeah,
had the stick and stone. So
yeah, because it's just like normal bad guys with guns don't have shit like that.
no,
You know, like Kimi and his men, they didn't have no stick and stone.
no, they didn't. Is this Libby's blood?
Um, I think so, right? Because Anna Lucia was like on the couch,
Okay, yeah.
so I think it makes more sense that this would be Libby. And you can see the mural in the background. I think that's around where she was standing.
So art does kill.
Indeed. This is one of those weird Mr. Echo scenes. I feel like no other character has scenes like this where he just
He is great at giving the creepiest speech with a smile on his face. Like he's half smiling, but it's the creepiest
Yeah.
thing.
yeah, it's true. It's true. It's like yeah, and it makes the whole thing like really a bit. It's like what was the point of that? Like
Mhm.
what are you doing? And like I feel like normal characters don't just walk in and like tell a weird story with a creepy
He's
smile on their face and then leave.
he's got like this Yoda quality where he talks in this way where you know what he's saying, you know the words he's using, but you don't quite know what
Yeah.
he's saying, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't tell you.
Yeah.
He just smiles and walks out of the room when he's done.
And it's kind of like you're speaking a slightly different language. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I feel like there's also like there's an element to the story where it's almost like he knows that Michael, you know, is betraying them right now. And it was sort of like his scene with Ben where he goes in there and it seems like he sort of knows that he's another, but it's like he doesn't really know that, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's kind of weird. Maybe that's his special powers. He's right on the cusp of discovering something, but he never quite gets there.
he's always like really close to the answer.
Like just like the mystery with the girl.
That's right.
He got really close to the answer, and it was like,
You're right.
oh, not quite. Wow,
You're
I
right.
wonder if that's his thing.
That's a really weird. It's a really weird quality for a character to have. He's really, really good at almost solving mysteries.
Yeah.
He's like a Sherlock Holmes that never actually solves a case.
Yeah, he's Watson by himself.
He's Watson.
He's Watson alone. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we got to look at other examples because there's 3 examples of that. So that's that's a pattern.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Or maybe we shouldn't put meaning on it. I don't know.
Yeah. There's also that.
There's always that. Oh, geez. This is the beginning of the end for
Oh. Now this is weird. And I think this fits in with our discussion as well.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie deciding, and Claire too, from the previous thing, because it was what Ethan told her.
Yeah.
You know, that like, what is this vaccine for? Like, why do we need this? What does it do?
Because Aaron's been fine this entire time.
Exactly.
He's not even in this scene in the middle of some mysterious illness.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's really about the character deciding to put meaning on this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no external thing, happening here. It's all about what they heard and how they interpreted it.
Right, right. Yeah, and I sort of like that. I think the only thing that bothers me about it is the fact that next season they don't mention this at all.
Yeah.
They just completely drop this plot line.
What bothers me is just the sort of bad mothering that's happening here. The idea that she has no idea what this stuff should do, and she's giving it to her. I don't think Jack ever hears about this.
Right.
It's just, to me, that's the part I hate more than anything else. It just seems like a bad idea. It's and there's no long-term plan here. So even if it does work and Aaron should take it, it is going to run out. So then what? Then he's used to having a vaccine.
Right. Right.
And then on top of that, yeah, it doesn't end up mattering. So
The numbers are on the vaccine too, just for another
Oh,
like
okay, yeah.
random place where they show up.
Well, they're from the Swan Hatch, so
That's true. That I guess that is connected because they have that idea of the quarantine and all that stuff.
yeah.
But I do wish we knew like what that vaccine is. It a placebo?
I
Did
mean,
it serve a
it
function?
it it couldn't. I would say this: it's most likely a placebo. The only other option is it would have protect you from the purge toxin. There's really no other explanation of what you need to be protected from. The other thing that the sickness, that we know about the sickness is not actually something a vaccine could protect you from. So it
Right,
shouldn't be that, the sort of man in black thing.
right.
So, I mean, if you look at kind of, all the simple answers, I think that's all the simple answers there are. And it's most likely just a placebo because what else would it be for? There was
Right.
no other no other virus or anything that we know of, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. That's a good point. That is the most reasonable answer. So, about that scene we just watched, I just want to point out how strange it is a little bit to me that, like, especially in season two, well, I guess it never stops. Like, the sharing of information, like, Sun just found out that Aunt Lucia and Libby were murdered,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's been a whole episode between when that actually happened
Yeah.
and us seeing that scene. It's like it's kind of crazy to me that she doesn't know, but it's like someone has to tell her at some point, and
I wonder about
people
the
aren't
timeline
talking.
though about these three episodes. Maybe they're 2 days or something.
I mean, uh,
I forget
the
how
fact
it
that Mr.
works.
Echo's there suggests he's back from their expedition. So
Yeah.
Ben gets freed by Michael, and then ostensibly Locke and Echo go to search for him. And there's at least a night because they show them sleeping and it's dark and stuff, and there's a day there,
But
and then
is
they
that
come
that
back.
that should have been the night they of the day they got killed, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. It would be the day they got killed because it was pretty much right
So
after.
this is the next day.
Yeah, I mean that we're watching
So
now.
yeah. So then she just found out the next
She
day.
found it the next day, so I guess it's not that bad.
But
It's
it's
just
still
weird
no,
because there
I
was
mean
a whole
it
episode.
is still weird. It's still weird. Alex, everybody.
Yeah, yeah. So this is sort of like a Pulp Fiction moment where we see like another point of view on this scene.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes we find out, oh, Alex was there and Michael was there. But also, like, it's so weird looking at Tom in the scene because he looks so different from how he did earlier when
Mhm.
we saw him throw the stick and stone. It's like, how did he morph into this guy?
Yeah.
Like, I'm really confused about the inconsistency of Tom's appearance. I just don't know what happened to him. I have a gag in my mouth.
And it's a interesting. Asked if it's a boy or a girl. And I feel like it doesn't. That's not a meaningful question. But I feel like I put meaning on that, and I go, oh, it must matter if it's a boy or a girl.
Mm-hmm.
But it can't matter.
Yeah.
She's just asking to ask the question.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Just to show she cares.
Yeah.
Man, the others were scary back then.
It looked like the smoke monster when those lights went out.
It really did. It was like very uniform.
Yeah.
But when you actually see the others, they don't look that impressive.
Yeah. It's all about show.
And now look, like Tom's different now. That's not how he looked in the other scene. Like what happened?
Because these are filmed later.
I know, but it's just like
It's just
uh,
yeah. I think it's just a different beard or something. Like it's so
yeah.
I'd have to look at them side by side to really see the difference. But it's kind of subtle, but it's also obvious. It's obvious there's a difference. It's subtle what the difference is, I guess.
Right. No, actually, I agree completely with that. It just sounds like it makes no sense. Subtly obvious. That's
Subtly
Lost.
obvious.
Oh, Sawyer. Uh-oh.
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 Uh-oh. Nice. Wow. It's fun to come back around to that one.
It really is. That's a classic Sawyer line.
Classic.
It's hilarious. He really, and you can tell by his face that like he actually thinks that's what Jack's alluding to.
Yeah.
It's like, oh really?
Cut a net.
That's what you want to call it, huh?
I don't really get all that reference there, but
Yeah, like how many references are you gonna throw into one sentence?
we
Jesus.
went off the rails pretty fast, and I just like they're coming too fast, so I don't know any of these.
The only one I got was the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though the Dirty Dozen is a Dirty Five. Is there a name for five things?
It's
Like a
like there's
dozen?
no other shirts, Echo. There's no other ones on
No.
the island. This is the
That's
only.
his.
I have to wear this shirt.
It's like his superhero uniform or something. Like
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
not. If he's not wearing that, he's not Mr.
Was that
Echo.
his pre-shirt? Maybe that's why he won't take it off.
Oh yeah, maybe so. It really is like a fucking mess. Oh my
But
god.
what's funny is it's probably like handcrafted, tailored to look
Oh yeah.
so like meticulously
To
designed
look
to look
like
like
that.
that.
Oh, absolutely. And the holes are like made for a certain like look to be in a certain pattern. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No question.
All those frayed threads are hand sewn. Well, he just looked at his watch
He
too.
did. Old habits.
Maybe it's just an old habit. Why did he
That
look
was
at his
weird.
watch? Why did he care what time it was
Yeah,
right
that was
there?
weird. It was weird.
This is weird. This is a weird turn for Echo.
Yeah.
He seems a little off. It's like we missed the scene where he got high or something. You know, it's like a deleted scene where he found some Dharma branded like marijuana and like he smoked it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's too calm for normal life.
Yeah.
He's too assured, like, and that's the difference between him and Locke right there. Clock's ticking.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of an awkward transition, I think. I think that's part of the problem with the scene.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to shift his character from building the church to pushing the button.
And they're trying to tell us that he's decided to live there without first telling
Yeah.
us he was even considering it. I think that's
Right.
that's part of the big leap there.
Yeah.
It's a conundrum.
Yeah. No, that was good because from Sawyer's point of view, it's like, damn, like I'm trying to help here.
Mhm. Yeah, it's hard to say no to that one.
Like, why are you?
Yeah, exposition, yeah.
Hmm.
That's a great set piece.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice.
And this music is so like
Yeah.
1960s something western or some drama.
Yeah, you're right.
Like classic
Old fashioned,
old
like
fashioned, yeah.
weird. Like I don't know what to say. Like yeah,
I don't know
almost
what
like a
to
cross
call it, but
between like a western and a sci-fi movie.
yeah, yeah.
Like
Totally, yeah, totally. I could see either one.
yeah, that's what's weird about it. And I feel like the others kind of embody
Yeah, this is
both
this is a scene from,
sides.
Man from Another Time,
Yeah, 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 exactly,
How
exactly.
did you get here to our place? He said he came by boat. What is this boat? But I can't
Jack,
but I
that
can't
was his
promise it
name.
will hurt.
Oh right, and then the others just randomly take people's blood. Like I
Yeah,
don't even know why
and
they care.
it's like okay, first they were kind of consistent on how they're depicting the others. Then
Yeah,
now this is the first inconsistency.
yeah,
Is they have medical supplies and they want your blood,
yeah.
and you won't get one. Miss Clue has questions. What is this place? You guys should know that. I call bullshit.
Yeah. No, I think she does know that. I think she's trying to get a point here. Make a point here.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I wanted her to finish that question.
Yeah, totally.
I did not
They
understand what she was getting at.
I think they know that you want her to finish the question and that's why they have Michael cut him off.
Because she seemed to suggest that Walt wasn't halfway around the world.
Yeah, that's true.
But also suggesting that would mean that he was with Michael, right? Like
Right. Right.
she's like, did you see? Like, how could you see if he wasn't there? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very strange. It's very strange.
It's a
It's like
strange point to make for her to go for that scene just to reinforce the point that he doesn't know Walt.
right. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, they're also introducing or reintroducing the mystery about Walt and his powers, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And so, but then it's just about the fact that Michael hasn't been involved in his life very much, which is a much more, basic thing.
yeah.
But yeah, the others love to be like sanctimonious and moralizing about things. It's one of the things I really hate about them. They stand out there and like, oh well, you don't know much
Yeah,
about him, do you? And it's like,
yeah, and it's says the person who kidnapped his son, right?
yeah, exactly. It's like, where do you get off being the like all judgy? Like,
And it's funny because they even have that an internal version of that with the sheriff and that whole tribunal thing. Like
mm-hmm,
they even
totally.
judge each other. It's
Yeah, yeah,
this whole
yeah,
judgy thing.
yeah. Exactly,
Very judgy.
exactly. It's
And
just like,
this was a ridiculous storyline. Like,
oh
oh
yeah,
well, fine, I'll finish the church myself.
mm-hmm, yeah. And in one scene, he's already like not able to do it.
Because this happens.
Oh my god, this is so weird.
Yeah, you want this, right?
What are you doing, Vincent? Yeah, are you kidding me?
Are you a smoke monster?
Yeah, seriously.
And then he leaves.
Yeah. Did someone put him up to that? It almost makes me think they did.
Right? Somebody trained him. Yeah, right. He found Sawyer's stash. Yeah, right. Sawyer left his stash halfway open. I call
Yeah.
bullshit on all that.
It is bullshit.
Why does Sawyer knows there's drugs in those, right?
I think so.
Because otherwise he shouldn't have them.
Right. Yeah, no, I believe he does. Now, here, this reminds me of the scene with Hurley and Libby where they just like waste all the food. It's like,
It's
it's supposed.
because I don't want it. No one else should even have it.
Exactly. And it's like, it's supposed to be a triumphant kind of personal victory for them,
Yeah,
but it's actually them like wasting stuff
and
that other people might be able to have
it's actually
useful.
them showing less courage, I think, right? Because it would have taken more courage
Yeah.
for him to leave the drugs
Keep
in
it
the
and not use it.
stash and never go back to it
Yeah,
than,
exactly.
than to get rid of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's funny because this is more TV. It's more cinematic.
Mhm.
You can put the emotional music to it. The
Mhm.
other way that works better would have just been when he sees it, he takes a note, he makes a decision, and he leaves without taking it, and we understand
Right.
his character growth there. But then that's
Yeah.
2 seconds versus
Yeah.
this that dramatic scene of him.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah, maybe it's just a practical thing. That shot, by the way, made me think Locke put Vincent up to it.
I remember that. Yeah, it did look like Locke was like, "Yep, I knew this would happen, and
That's what I wanted.
this was a test, and you passed." I would be by not going,
By pushing this
by
button.
pushing the button. He can't wait.
Yeah.
Wait to push that button.
He really commits to this mission.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one thing I think could have been developed if he stayed on the show. Like I feel like, you know, the Man in Black gives him this mission and he dives into it with like complete conviction.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the Man in Black would have used him more like that. And his death ends up being about how he decides not to, follow his instructions, and maybe eventually it would have come to that. But I feel like that's what we're leading to here, even though we never really get to see part two of that story.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, I remember this scene.
In a net.
In both senses.
There it is.
Oh, all right, he says that. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. So Jack's like, oh, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
I too was caught in that. We're not going to agree that's what that means.
Yeah, it has to now.
Actually, I feel like that's another illustration of the point we were making earlier.
About meaning, yeah.
Like, for all Sawyer knows, they really did, like, have sex, and that's his way of saying it. We got caught in a net. He
Yeah.
doesn't know whether he's telling the truth or
And
not.
Sawyer could go and tell everyone that they had sex. And
Yeah.
everyone would believe it until like 30 years later, where it's like, no. We literally just got caught in a net.
Exactly. It was not a euphemism, But now that Jack's agreed, like, he's like, we got caught in a net, and he's like, yes. It's almost like he's tacitly saying, you were right earlier.
And that's the reverse, right? So if we would have saw this scene first, where caught in a net means having sex, then the previous scene where he says caught in a net, he thinks that means having sex. And
right.
go to the original scene where caught in a net doesn't mean having sex.
Yeah.
That's like the hat. I mean, the numbers on the hatch,
Exactly.
You go to the beginning and it's not that at all.
You're totally right. You're totally right.
It's the power of editing and storytelling. The chronology matters a lot.
Yeah, it does. It's true. It's true. It's almost like, yeah, I mean, it's a huge percentage of what the story is and the way it comes across.
Yeah.
Just the order you put things.
First name, wow, he's really serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no one ever calls him Hugo unless they're serious. Was he? What was he doing at the end? He was digging with one hand. Like,
He's one hand digging Ana Lucia's grave. I mean, he killed
really?
him. So I was like, where's all the red shirt? Why is nobody else helping dig?
Yeah, seriously. Like, why do main cast members have to dig the grave? What are those red shirts good for if they're not going to dig a grave?
Right.
Like, come on, guys. Earn your keep. You don't do anything else. You just bang on 10 when Sawyer has a headache.
Hey, they gather around when other important things are happening.
That's true. That's true.
They gather and disperse. That's what they spend most of their time doing. Isn't that weird too? He hasn't met Miss Clue in a week.
Oh, man.
Oh yeah.
I remember when she said that in the preview. I was like, she's so lying.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh
And she wasn't lying.
no, because he said, "You think I'm an idiot?"
Yeah. Miss Clue is weird, man.
Mm-hmm. No, she's great.
Yeah, she's got this crazy way of like moving and speaking that like it's just creepy.
You have the title.
Exactly. Titular line. Holy shit, Walt, you're old. Have they been aging you?
We've been aging you this entire time. You know that makes me that makes me think they could have explained his growth with a time barrier. They could have been
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, we took him out and we came back in on the wrong trajectory and he aged a bit.
Yeah, they could have done that. They could have done that. Put you in the room.
Trying to think if what he said was the best thing to say. They're not who they say they are. They're pretending.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange because I feel like they don't say they're anything.
It's hard to know what he means, and because so
Yeah.
we know what he means,
We know what he means.
but
Yeah.
it's hard in Michael's position to kind of know what that means,
Yeah.
and then so we know what it means, but even what it means is kind of hard to describe. Of like, you know,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's just strange because they I feel like they never actually say, "Oh yeah, we're just like this and we certainly don't have any, you know, access to technology or other things like this." I mean, they have those guards in front of the hatch. I mean, it's
mhm.
I feel like it's sort of the sense in which they're pretending is weird, you
He
know?
should have said something like, "This is all fake."
Yeah.
Or something like that, like more about the circumstance.
Yeah. I think that would have worked better.
You know, they have houses on the other side of the island.
Exactly. It's yeah, but the thing is like Michael I I don't think he knows what that means.
What means?
the thing about they're pretending they're not who they
Yeah,
say they
that's what I'm
are.
saying. It's so vague.
Yeah, so like I don't think I mean, he's worried about other stuff,
Yeah,
and I don't think he really gives it a lot of thought what that means.
he's got a list to deal with now.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Oh shit. I remember when this episode aired and they went to commercial there. I thought the episode was over.
That's an episode ender right there.
Yeah.
This is a little epilogue, Phil. It feels like an epilogue.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz that was a really punchy line.
Yeah.
Those graves don't look that deep, no offense. But I guess if you have one hand, it's not that easy.
uh, Josh Holloway, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
He looks upset.
Yeah, that was interesting. I wouldn't expect him to be the one they focus on there.
I think that was the Ana Lucia crowd. He came to mourn her.
Ah, okay. Right. Oh, I remember this.
Oh, this is weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I remember being really excited about this. 'Cause it was like, oh shit, Locke's going into action.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You know? And it's like the first thing he does ends with him saying, I was wrong.
Yeah. Classic. I remember this scene.
Oh yeah. This is the scene where oh no, it wasn't this scene.
No, this is yeah, I remember this. This was great.
Yeah.
Saeed calling it. Nobody else has any clue.
Yeah.
And this is why I was like, you gotta love Saeed.
Yep.
He called it all.
He did.
Jack, stay out of this. This is my area of expertise. Why want to do that for like 15 reasons, Jack? Jesus. Let me drive.
It's too bad because Saeed doesn't predict the fact that the camp is not where the trap is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That they're actually going to take them before they even get there.
Yeah.
Or actually, I think the point is they're not even going there. Michael's taking them somewhere else,
Yeah, that's what it is.
which makes the others look like better. Like they had a good strategy for this. Like if someone figures it out and comes to this conclusion, then you know
Mm-hmm.
they don't have
Yeah,
Saeed storming their camp.
If Michael tells them and they pretend to be in on it,
Yeah,
then we
yeah,
have backup. Yeah.
exactly. Like they won't be there if someone comes to attack the camp, since the camp doesn't matter at all.
It doesn't. So wherever you are, Libby, just breathe. Oh, Hurley. Claire's
Oh,
like, I gotta
Hurley.
get more vaccine for the baby. Michael's like, this dude.
Yep.
Oh, that's Michael's look of guilt. Sorry.
Yeah, I think so.
There it is, guilt.
Guilt. And now he's like, well, that worked. I didn't really have to do anything.
Hmm.
Sometimes, Michael, you just win.
Sometimes you just wait and you win. And Sun and Jin for this episode.
Yeah, just so you know, they're still around.
Yep.
This is one of the things about this phase of the show. Like, even if all the cast members don't play a role, they were like all together more often,
Hmm.
and that really stops being the case next
Oh
season.
my god.
Oh shit!
I forgot about this.
Sun's classic line.
Classic boat.
Boat.
Man.
I was not expecting that. Now that's
Yeah, I remember this shot from the next time on Lost.
that's why Michael's line's not the end.
Yeah. Cause speaking of boat,
Yep.
yeah, I remember from the question mark episode when they were like next time on Lost, and you see her say boat, and they all look out to the ocean, and there's that orange glow on their faces.
Yeah.
Think like a spaceship is landing.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's not that crazy, but they can make you believe that.
Yeah. Wow. Classic pre-finale Lost here. You know, like they're really ramping it up. A lot of good action, a lot of good character drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, all of the main conflicts and situations for the finale have been set up.
Yeah.
You have Locke going back to the hatch. He's going to try to stop Mr. Echo, who's already there pushing the button. You have Charlie frustrated building the church, so now he's going to go back and get involved in that situation. You have the crew, Jack and Sawyer, and Hurley and Kate. They're going to go, try to rescue the thing. And Saeed has his like counter mission where he's going to, so it's like everything's in place, and then the boat shows up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit. There's enough going on already.
Yeah, there's already enough going on, and that's why it's a season finale, because you have that third thing going on top of everything else, and it's like, well, that kind of changes what we were just about to do.
Exactly. And it's interesting that they don't directly tell us what it is. It's just a boat at this point, just abstract. We don't know who's on it. We don't know, because they could have gone one step further and said it's Desmond, but they saved that for next week.
Yeah, that would have been extra crazy.
Yeah,
even to tell us Desmond of all people is back on that boat like that would have blown up the TV.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't want to blow up the TV.
Don't blow up the TV. So, because we have to watch the next episode.
Exactly.
So I'm confused about Locke. So why did he cut the brace off his leg and storm towards the hatch as if he made a decision about something? So what happened when he was sitting there doing nothing? What did I miss?
I mean, ultimately it's up to interpretation, of course.
Oh God, this is going to come back to bite us on everything. Well, Jacob's Cabin is really ultimately up to interpretation. So,
well, you know what? That thought did occur to me.
That was your first thought, of course.
I mean, I hate to say it because obviously it's true, but it's also really unhelpful. Mm-hmm. But I think. I mean, it seemed to me like the idea is, Locke decided that they should stop pushing the button in the last episode, and Mr. Echo decided that he would start doing it. And I think Locke's sitting there on the beach, thinking about what to do next. And, there's the brief thing with Charlie. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything. But I think the idea is, the island is supposed to have healed him faster. That's why his legs start where he feels that he can just cut off the things and walk now. And there was that scene with Rose where she tells him his legs are going to heal fast and stuff. And so I think there's that renewed sense of power and strength and stuff like that with the legs being healed. And also him being healed is connected to his sense of purpose on the island and the fact that he's meant to be there and stuff. So I feel like he decides that he's going to stop Mr. Echo from pushing the button. He's going to end the madness of pushing the button, and that's why he gets up. And instead of just I'm not going to do it, he's going to go stop him.
That's so strange. It's such a weird thing because it's almost diametrically opposed. It's almost like it's because I feel like at a certain level, Locke can walk if he thinks he can walk.
Right.
It's one of those things.
It seems that way.
And that's directly related to whether or not he's convinced he's on the right path, right?
Right.
Okay. So, but it's almost like saying he gets the ability to walk back because he feels like he's on the right path. That right path being to not press the button, right?
Right.
But before, when the path was to press the button, he had the same ability.
Right.
And so it's like, well, whatever thing is giving him this ability doesn't seem to care whether or not he presses the button.
Right.
Because those two things you can cross out of the equation.
Right.
So it's so I'm just confused about what does he think is happening. It's I don't know. That was just weird to me. But yeah, okay, it makes sense. He knows that Echo is gonna press the button, and he may even know like what time, I guess. So he's like, oh, it's gonna happen soon.
Yeah. And I think it's sort of a step beyond, like, he's not doing it, so he's out of the hatch. He's like, I'm done, I'm not doing it. But it's like, no, it's not enough that I just not push it. We need to just stop pushing it altogether. I'm going to stop it.
So I can't remember. How did he get convinced that he shouldn't press it anymore? I feel like...
The Pearl Station video.
Oh, that's all it was. It was just the video.
Yeah, I think when he saw that, he was like, it's a joke. It's just an experiment. It doesn't do anything. So, yeah, I think... But Echo's like, no, it does mean something. And I guess initially he's like, okay, well, if you want to waste your time, go ahead. But I think here he's like, no, this has to end.
But okay, I guess that's where I get lost is he's going a step beyond his initial realization, right? To go and say, I'm going to stop you from pressing it. It doesn't actually justify his initial. It wasn't like he was told, I had a dream, no one needs to press the button. Don't press the button. Pressing the button is bad. Then he starts with the first step of himself not pressing it, and then the second step of making sure no one else presses it. It's that he starts with it for himself, saying, I don't think anyone should press it. It's a joke. And then he goes, so what I'm saying is it's an extra leap for him to stop Echo from doing it, because it doesn't make him any more assured of what his belief is, right? It's because it's not whether the button is good or bad. It's whether or not it's worth doing.
Right.
And I feel like that's the difference. It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It doesn't reinforce his conviction. I feel like it only makes him seem petty and makes him seem like everyone has to believe what I believe.
But I think there's that side to Locke,
Yeah.
Like he has that thing where, it's what he wants is what's best for everyone. Mm-hmm. And he does want everyone to believe what he believes.
He's like, don't tell me what I won't let you do.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's it isn't a nice character trait, but I feel like it is something they've shown him doing, over the course of the series. And so, yeah, it's like he decides, well, if I don't think it's earth pushing, then no one can push it.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to figure out, why does that make him feel better in his idea that it's not worth pushing? Like, the fact that somebody else is wasting their time on it just really bothers him.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a strange thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. But it's like, yeah, somehow he needs he needs the whole experiment to be ended. He needs to like see what happens when you don't press it, see that nothing happens, and then sort of feel this victory of being confirmed in what he already is very sure about, which is
Hmm.
that, which is that it doesn't do anything. And of course we know how that ends.
Yeah. Well, usually when he's most assured of something is when he's the most wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Whenever he says, I've never been more sure about anything, that's when
Yeah,
you know.
that's the classic. He's reached the pinnacle of his wrongness. Like he's peeking out, guys. He's peeking out. He can't be more wrong in this very moment.
Yeah, yeah. But I do feel like there like if he were proved right, it would be a kind of victory for him because I think that's another aspect of Locke that like people don't really talk about very much because I think the show doesn't really present him like out loud this way, but like although he's the man of faith in his own words, and others at times, but they're usually quoting him, um, which eh, changes things a bit. Anyway, like he's ostensibly someone who has faith, but really he loses it very easily, and
Hmm.
and also like he wants confirmation. He wants constant like reassurance.
Yeah.
You know that
Well,
like
he's got
what he believes
abandonment
is true.
issues, right? I mean, he's got severe
Yeah,
abandonment issues, so he would just sort of textbook psychology in a way need reassurance in what he's doing and
yeah,
from outside people, So that's I guess that's to be expected. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, I guess that's the difference between faith, right? You look at what Echo is doing,
yeah.
where his faith is kind of bringing him this peace
Mhm.
and this calmness. Where when Locke was on the right path, it was almost more ego.
Yeah.
It was more this validates me
Right.
and what I can become to others because of it, because of
Yeah.
my specialness, you know. And he totally uses it in a different way. It didn't bring him like peace and calm,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. If anything, it was a source of more like
Yeah,
anguish and pain
yeah. He
and
couldn't handle it. He needed it. He always needed it validated. Yeah.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Whereas like for real faith, like it's supposed to be the way I was doing it. It's supposed to be something that's reassuring, that's kind of self actualizing. Like it's something that uh supports itself. It doesn't the whole point of faith is that you don't need
Hmm.
outside confirmation.
Yeah.
It's something you
It's
have within
like Locke is
yourself.
like, listen, I'll have total faith if you just prove it to me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's Locke. And
Yeah.
it's like that's not what the point of faith is supposed to
Yeah.
be.
Convince me I should do it. I'll have total faith I should do it.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel like the difference between him and Jack is more just that Jack just refuses to believe no matter what he sees.
Hmm.
you know? And Locke's like, okay, well if you just show me then I'll believe it.
Yeah,
You know?
it's not. Yeah, it's Jack is unwilling to believe, and Locke is too willing to believe, or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's not really about science versus faith. It's just about like I don't know what, like stubbornness and gullibility,
Yeah, something like that.
which is a weird conflict,
It's I
but
think it's both about ego,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
about Locke's ego and his sense of self, and it's about Jack.
I think they
If
they
Jack,
both have ego
yeah,
problems that manifest in different
if
ways.
Jack believes in something supernatural, that upsets his worldview.
Right, right. And it I think yeah, it unsettles it by upsetting his worldview, it sort of calls his own uh um uh like if his worldview's wrong, then that means something bad about himself,
Yeah,
I think.
that's his faith, right? I guess that's what it is he's built his faith on himself and
Yeah.
like what he can do or something, something like that. And if And if, for instance, someone can be healed supernaturally,
Yeah.
that calls into question his medical skills or his
Right.
knowledge, which means he
Exactly.
could, maybe that means he has to question himself and the decisions he's made, and so that kind of like everything crumbles after that.
Right. Right. But yeah, you're totally right. I mean, for both of them, it's about them as individuals. It's about their own uh, egos, and it's not about the bigger picture or about the good of everyone or whatever. Like it's about what it means for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, but Echo is just reassured by, well, this is the mission I was given, and I'm just going to perform it, and I'm satisfied
And
doing that.
and it's weird that he drops the church to do this, but I feel like in a way it makes the point even stronger that he was in the middle of one path, he was in the middle of one way of doing something, and he immediately
Hmm.
drops it when he finds the thing that convinces him is the right thing to do,
Yeah.
and doesn't look back.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah. No. Totally. But I think also there's an element there that it's Yemi in the dreams,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what the smoke monster is using to a certain extent. But like the fact that Yemi was the reason he was building a church in the first place, but now Yemi's telling him to do something else. I feel like that makes it a bit easier for him
Yeah,
to
that's true.
drop the church. You know, like Yemi gave him this mission, and he had that woman in Australia telling him Yemi talked to her and
Yeah.
said stuff to her, and he has this idea in his head that it's really Yemi.
Mm-hmm.
And that's up until the very last second, he thinks that's Yemi talking to him, so I feel like that gives him even
Again,
more.
again, that's his power again, right? Like he was
Hmm.
almost on the cusp of knowing it's not Yemi. Like he should have kind of known, right, that it
Yeah,
wasn't Yemi, but he was convinced.
you're totally right because he was skeptical all the way
Mm-hmm.
up until that last minute, and then he was like questioning himself, and then he sees him again, and then it's like, oh man, you almost had it, you were right before.
Mm-hmm.
You should have watched that episode. You would have seen. It would have been so much clearer. Yeah, and he also just didn't make. I It also makes me wonder if he saw the smoke monster flashes, because I don't know if we ever really got an answer on that, because I know like we see them
Mm-hmm.
when the smoke monster is scanning him,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But like, was he aware that stuff was in there? Like when the smoke monster judges Ben, he sees these like sort of video clips playing, you know,
Yeah.
like in the smoke, So it seems like the smoke monster can serve as a kind of film projector. If he wants.
Evil incarnate slash film projector.
I never really thought about putting it that way, but
He's got two jobs.
oh, that's so cool. He could hold like
His
revival
own
nights.
independent movie theater.
Yes. No, but anyway, the point I was trying to make was that if he did see that, like if he was on any level, and of course there's no dialogue indicating that he was, but if he was on any level aware that the smoke monster was scanning his memories,
Mm-hmm.
then he could have drawn the conclusion that if not the smoke monster itself, at least the island or something was the source of these messages, and that it's not Yemi, it's like some entity speaking through him via his memories.
Well, and that's
You know?
part of the problem with Faith, right? Is he is already in a mindset, like you said, to want to believe that that's Yemi. So he's not as
Yeah.
skeptical as he should be going into the situation. And they could have done it where he says something. He asks Yemi a question that the smoke monster as Yemi couldn't answer.
Right.
Or he says something that's very un-Yemi ish. And he's like,
Yeah.
Yemi, you say that? But yeah, so
Right.
that's kind of interesting. But the downside of the faith part.
Yeah, totally. And I think Lost, that was one of the things they wanted to say. It's like faith can be, and of course, I mean, I think Jack's victory in the end is, something about the positive side of faith, how it can motivate you to do things that, without it you wouldn't want to or be capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they also showed that it's a weakness in the sense that it makes you very vulnerable to a lot of situations and people that can manipulate it.
Yeah.
Because if you really believe things without evidence, that's something that
People
can be
will take
exploited.
advantage of that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And so it cuts both ways, and yeah, I think that is definitely uh, one of the big themes of the show, no question. I kind of wish they had harped on it a little more, given how nicely faith ties in with this whole idea of interpretation and patterns and
Mm-hmm.
randomness and imposing order on things.
Yeah, and which is
Uh,
all those topics are across the sea topics. All that stuff
yeah,
started with Mother imposing order, telling
that's true.
them what in terms of faith and spirituality, telling them what the light cave is. Like
Right,
giving meaning to this object on an island. All that stuff.
right.
Is so fundamental to the show. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. The mother says, "I made it so you can't hurt each other." Uh, do they just believe that because she said it?
Mm-hmm.
Did she really have a power? I mean, or did they just realize it because that's what they believe?
Yeah.
You know, it's like maybe the smoke monster could have just hopped on the first boat, hopped on the sub or something, disguised himself as like kill some Dharma guy, disguise himself, hop on a sub and leave, and he just thought he couldn't do it,
Yeah.
you know? Cuz like he said no, you can't leave. And he's like, "Well, okay, I guess I can't leave
I
then."
guess I can't. Why would if I could? Why would I say I couldn't?
Exactly. You think if I could leave, I would still be here?
And that's where you go. Did you try? Well, no, I didn't try.
Wow, why would I try?
Why would I try? No,
Yeah,
there's. I mean, all of that is really just various examples of what we're those ideas we've been talking about of because even the idea of trying means faith, right? It's like
yeah,
do you try because you have faith you'll succeed in something, or faith you
yeah,
will or won't, but it's like you have to put meaning and an effort into just that situation, and so
right.
yeah, all of that stuff is totally examples of these bigger themes they're working with.
Yeah. But then like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it totally works with the bigger picture of the show, but as a, more small-minded fan, I kind of wish we could have had something like that in my loophole episode where we see the smoke monster try to leave and we
Hmm.
see what happens, you
Hmm.
know? Like I wish we had some idea, or did he never try to leave? Like which one is it,
Hmm.
Like we don't really know because he was there for a couple thousand years,
This is
and
like the saddest story of like the how would you phrase that? Like the prisonerless prisoner. Like the person who's trapped in a place that they're not trapped.
right,
Something weird like that where
right,
it's really just this self-imposed prison, and
right.
that's the saddest thing.
And they come up with this elaborate scheme to escape that's like
Hmm.
completely unnecessary,
Hmm.
and brings about their own death ultimately.
Yeah.
And so they never escape.
And so they
Yeah,
and
it really.
well, that's funny. That's even crazier to think. Okay, you think you can't escape from this place, so what you do is you create an elaborate plan to escape, but you're so convinced you can escape that you make the plan so elaborate as to put in points of failure for yourself, where you might end up failing to get off the island.
Yeah.
It's like look at like when he built the donkey wheel to get off the island, right?
Mhm.
He's told he can't get off the island, but he's gonna try. So he
Mhm.
builds this thing, but he does go tell people. He goes and tells Jake, like he creates points of failure, which it prevent him from actually
Right.
getting off the island. And that'd be
Yeah.
so crazy if his psychology is so warped from this one idea of you can't ever leave, that
Hmm.
even when he wants to try to leave, he, it's like he's one level removed, so he can't even. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's almost like he's fight clubbing himself into
Yeah,
not being able to leave.
yeah, but he never gets to see, Tyler Durden.
Right,
He never gets to go that one level out to see what's really happening.
right,
He's stuck thinking, Tyler's real or something.
right, right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I mean that's another thing. Like he built that wheel and the wheel worked.
Hmm.
We saw people transported multiple times from there. In fact, he was in that fucking chamber himself watching Locke turn it. It's like what happens if he turns it? You know?
As Christian,
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah, like did he ever try that? Like, is there a force field around the wheel that he can't get through? Like, what is it?
Well, that
Like,
begs the question: it's how? I guess he's pretty corporeal when he's in that form, right? I mean,
yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a little bit there. I mean, they're pretty vague about that. He's invulnerable, so there's a sense in which he can't be sort of the the same kind of corporeal as a person.
but I mean, like,
He
can he
doesn't bleed.
could he physically have turned the wheel? I'm sure we asked that question before.
I mean, I think so, right? I mean, he certainly manipulates objects and stuff when he's in the bodies. We see him, holding things and touching people and, you know.
Various manipulations of objects,
Yeah, exactly.
sweeping with a broom, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing is, at the time, because he tells Locke's like, can you help me? And he's like, no, I can't,
Mhm.
because he like breaks his leg or something when he falls down there, and it did give us the impression that he couldn't interact with him, but I feel like from what we see later, he could have, like, he does have a physical presence.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. Why couldn't he have just? Well, I guess part of the thing is, well, I guess that would have been a shortcut to his loophole, right? Because if
Yeah,
his loophole was to get the Losties back to the island, so he could wait. Now I'm confused.
no,
Wait,
that wasn't the loophole.
so wait, but but I'm saying part of the plan is to get the Losties back,
That's true. That
but
is part of the plan. That's
but
just
he
not the
that's
loophole.
not the loophole. But I mean, but the loophole consists of getting them back,
Yeah.
and
Oh, right. No, you're right. I'm sorry. That is part of the loophole,
yeah,
actually.
like
I forgot because there's like multiple stages of the
yeah, no,
loophole.
there's just various stage. This is like stage 7 where
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're right. He does have to get them back.
he needs to get them back, but he needs to get them back because he wants Locke back dead.
Right.
But it's funny because Locke is there right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that's so the shortcut out of the loophole would have been, okay, let me get to the end of this goal, which is just to get off the island, so he could
Right.
presumably turn the wheel and just get off the island. The other
Mm-hmm.
shortcut was Locke is there right now.
Right.
Why couldn't he have just killed Locke?
Because he can't kill the candidates.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, or so he thinks.
Oh, so many things, of course, of course.
But like that's what matters in the scene. Yeah, no, that's how they get out of a lot of problems. Like that rule, that really helps a lot because if he could have just killed them,
Yeah.
then like a lot of the plot should have been simplified.
Yeah.
Same thing for Jacob. I mean, that's why they have that rule. Because if he could have just killed Jacob, like
Mhm.
his problems should have been over like forever ago.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
Because yeah, I agree. Like he should have just like the simplest solution. And like, what happens if he tries? By the way, what happens if he tries to kill Locke? He can make a bomb that like goes off when you defuse it,
mhm.
and then if someone is dumb enough to like pull the thing trying to defuse it, then the bomb will
So, I mean,
explode,
yeah,
and then they can die. You
Okay,
know?
here's a very simple example of how the logic of this breaks down. Okay, Man in Black puts Locke in a chokehold. Okay,
Hmm.
is Locke just never gonna die from suffocation? Like, he's just never gonna die? What's gonna
Yeah.
happen here?
Yeah. No, I like that's what I was trying to say about the bomb. Like, where's the line there?
Yeah.
Where it's like, if he made that bomb, even if he rigged it in a strange way, where you know, diffusing it is what arms it. Why does that not count as him kill? You know, when Saeed and Sun and Jin die, why is that not breaking the rules?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they try to say that it isn't, but to me, it's just. I mean, it reminds me of the whole like coming into your house thing
Well,
on True Blood. It's like,
maybe because he didn't build the bomb, he only rewired it or whatever he did. I feel like
no,
part of because part of the loophole that they use is they have they have other people help in the killing, so maybe that was part of it. Like he didn't build the bomb.
right, right, right. That's true. He didn't build the bomb. He just rewired it, but he did plant it in Jack's thing. You know, but they were responsible for arming it, right? Because if they didn't pull the wires, then it wouldn't have been armed.
Hmm.
So in that way, he gets out. But to me, that feels very legalistic. I mean, that's why I brought up the Trueba thing. It's like, okay, technically they're
Hmm. Well,
responsible, but
that's
it's
what.
like,
Yeah, that's like True Blood. The whole vampires can't enter your house if you own it. It is very legalistic when it's like, okay, who owns the deed to this house? Because that's going
yeah,
to determine whether or not this vampire. And it's like,
has the
really,
right.
you got to go down to that level for this supernatural thing to work? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like all about property rights and like deeds and contracts, and then there and also it had loopholes. Like they can they can right? I mean,
Yeah.
they can glamour you inside your house and tell you to invite them in.
Hmm.
And like that actually works.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how does that work? Like that's bullshit,
So it's
like
not about your intention; it's about the words you say more, or something like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, even if the vampire is like using a kind of mind control to make you do it, the fact that you just say the words is
Yeah.
all that matters.
Hmm.
And so it's like that's how that feels to me, where it's sort of like the rules have this weird sort of just it's all about the technicalities. But if it's like that, then it's sort of it's like, why couldn't he kill Locke by like arranging some strange scenario where you know Locke steps into a trap or something, and
Hmm.
it's like,
Yeah, he
well, I
slips into a
didn't
trap
kill
and
you.
and an arrow shoots him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's like, well, you made the arrow
Hmm.
get pulled. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
And it's like, if he could rig a bomb like that, he could set a trap, right? I mean, like, I don't know. That just seems like that would be a much simpler solution than what he
Then
actually
sending him to
did.
the donkey wheel and having him
Yes.
go through. Yeah.
Yes. It depends on so many moving parts.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that any facet of that plan worked, let alone like almost all of it.
Yeah.
Like seriously, his plans did not fail until like the last seconds.
Yeah. No, he almost got away with it.
He was damn close. And I think if you put aside the idea that he's evil incarnate, like you said earlier, I mean, I think you can view his life as extremely tragic.
Oh yeah.
The fact that
So much
he,
solitary living and
yeah, exactly,
like.
as this monster thing,
Hmm.
like he really can't talk to anybody other than Jacob,
Yeah.
who
Who won't talk to
obviously
him?
won't talk to him. And so, yeah, the only other people he can talk to, he has to be in kind of deceptive mode to talk to them, because he,
Because they're all pawns in him wanting, his ultimate goal of getting off the island. Yeah, he can't just like, oh, here's some new people on the island, let me make friends. Because you know what, he
yeah,
did that before, and
hmm
Mom killed them all.
yeah, exactly, exactly,
He already tried like just living with whoever comes to the island and making
hmm
peace, and that didn't work out. So yeah, no, it is really tragic. Yeah, he didn't ask for it. He didn't do anything wrong. That's it's not until Jacob tries to kill him. Well, I guess okay, he was gonna kill the mom, right? So that was bad. Or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he did kill the mom.
He did kill the mom, yeah, but I mean, it's is it kind of bad? Yes, but I mean, she did kill his entire village.
Hmm.
I mean, uh, you know, revenge like that. I mean, usually we consider that if not justified, at least like understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire village,
Mhm.
every single
And I
person
think
but
so,
him.
but that's the thing, right? So, but Jacob took this as as a bad sign,
Right.
and yeah, he definitely didn't think it was reasonable. But I'm trying to remember how they even got to the light cave. Why were they even out there?
Jacob just grabs him and like takes him there.
He's like, I'm just gonna put you in here now.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's weird. Because I remember they were fighting, and then all of a sudden he just drags him out to the light cave and was like,
Yeah.
"Here, you want to
That's
leave? Leave." Is that what he
that's exactly
says?
what Yeah, that's exactly what he
Okay,
says.
okay, so I'm remembering correctly.
He's like, "You want to find the light? You want to leave this place?" And then he throws him in there.
All right, all right.
Yeah, it's well, as we noted in our episode when we talked about that episode originally. I mean, there's definitely some strange plot machinations in that episode. It's they're trying to do a lot of stuff in one episode, and so
Yeah.
they have like a lot of lines that are setting things up, but it's kind of awkward the way the story develops. But like earlier in the episode, the mother says like going down there would be like worse than death,
Hmm.
even though it's beautiful and it's also the source of light in every man, and it's but it's evil if you go down. It's like it's sort of confusing, like what the message is about that place.
Because it's both things at once.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's strange is how does she know? Like,
Well,
if this had happened before, then that means there should be another smoke monster on the island.
right, and that is what a lot of people think.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that she herself was a smoke monster, and that's how she knows. That's a fairly common
Mm.
theory, and I tend to think that, I mean, it's certainly possible, but it feels.
But how can there be two evil incarnates?
Yes, that's one thing that I think is a point in favor of her not being a smoke monster. I think another thing is just that it feels, maybe it is in the spirit of Lost now that we've like discovered what the spirit of Lost is, but it feels weird to me that at that late stage, if she were a smoke monster, they wouldn't tell us.
Hmm.
Like why not just tell us she was a fucking smoke monster?
Yeah.
Like wow, like that would help me understand her more, I think. If I knew she was a smoke monster, she was thrown down there and she has the same whatever that the Man in Black has. That might
Yeah.
explain some of her strangeness.
Or they could have been something like maybe there was, her husband or some male counterpart was turned into the smoke monster, and he actually left the island, and that was the Black Plague. The Black Plague happened
Hmm.
with that,
Right, right,
So
right. Yeah,
so
they could have
so
said something
so
like
she
that.
knows that if they leave, there's this sickness that happens, or this
Hmm.
widespread evil, like something like that could have happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, that would be an interesting idea. Actually, okay, maybe this is going too far, but now that I have this idea of her being a smoke monster in my head, I
Hmm.
started thinking about that episode and thinking about the fact that the real mother of Jacob and the Man in Black like comes back as a ghost and talks to the Man in Black and like reveals to him this information, and really she serves as the catalyst for the whole episode because without her, the Man in Black would never know what happened. You
Yeah.
know, how he was born, where he came from, and he would never have the motivation that drives him for the rest of
Hmm.
his life,
Yeah.
actually. So like that ghost plays a huge role. If the mother's a smoke monster, I feel like there's a serious possibility that that's actually her, and that actually she set up the whole scenario because she wanted a successor, and that uh, she knew that it would be Jacob. She knew the Man in Black, because he was always wanting to leave, that he would not be the one to stay on the island and protect it forever. And so actually it was just an elaborate plan by her to eventually be killed and pass it on to the next generation.
But are you saying it almost makes sense to me. Are you saying but why do the plan though? Why not just wait until she dies normally?
Well, the thing is, I don't think she will. I mean, I think when you're protector, you're basically immortal unless someone kills you.
Okay, so but then why get killed at all? Oh, you're saying, but she's a smoke monster, but she doesn't want to leave. So there's
Right.
nothing wrong with her being a smoke monster. But you're
Right.
saying she can't be. Okay, but now he's a smoke,
That's a
he
good
wasn't a
point.
smoke monster yet, but he might be a smoke, or he might want to leave, and the only way you can stop people from leaving is if you have a protector, and she can't both be a protector and a smoke monster, so she has to kill herself so that Jacob can become the protector, so he can stop Man in Black from leaving.
That's another level. I wasn't even saying all that, but that
I'm
works.
trying to I'm trying to make it what you said make sense in terms of like why,
Fair
in terms of
enough.
like why she needed to do that.
Right. I mean, I was just thinking she was ready to be done, and it was sort of as simple as that. I think I guess what I was saying is that the Man in Black like wanting to leave wasn't about him being a smoke monster. That was just a carryover from
Mm-hmm.
the person he
Well,
was
that's what it
before.
was, right? It was first it was he wants to leave but he shouldn't. Then it was he
Yeah.
wants to leave but he can't. And
Right.
now he's a smoke monster and bad things
Right.
will happen.
Right. Right, exactly. And so
So
I guess like if someone is turned into a smoke monster and they don't want to leave, then they won't necessarily want to leave, you know.
what if they
Just because they're
don't
a smoke
if they
monster.
don't want to leave? Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Okay,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Being a smoke monster doesn't necessarily make you want to leave. Yeah.
Yeah. That I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like she could be a smoke monster even if she doesn't want to leave,
Yeah,
potentially.
for sure.
But the thing is, I don't really believe that theory. It's just that I can sort of because I feel like the appearance of the mother, the real mother ghost, like it's bothered me a lot.
But we see her
And
again though, right? We see her when it's for real her.
well, I mean, before they're born, is that what you
No, but I
mean?
mean, don't we see her? Doesn't she come talk to Hurley at some point?
Hurley?
Isn't
No,
that?
no, no, no. Oh no, you're thinking of Richard's wife.
Oh, that's Richard's wife.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They actually look kind of similar.
Okay, I'm.
I can totally see that.
Why was I
Oh
thinking?
man, that would be crazy if she showed up to Hurley. I wish that
I
happened.
thought for some reason the mother came back at a later time. Am I just making that up?
I'm pretty sure you're thinking of Richard's wife.
Okay.
Man, but I mean, unless I'm forgetting
No, okay, that's right.
something.
Because Richard's wife was from the past too. That's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And she comes and talks to Hurley and has a whole thing with him, and yeah, it's strange because they
Oh, you
serve
know what?
similar
Here's how
functions.
I can disprove. Well, I can at least maybe disprove your theory that the mother was a smoke monster who turned into the real mother
Hmm.
is because the boys shouldn't have a memory of the mother, so how would she have used that to turn into her?
Well, I mean, she met the mother because she killed her, so she can take on the appearance of the mother just from the mother herself.
Oh, but did she have to get it from the person to trick them?
I mean, I don't think she has to when the smoke monster appears as a person, I don't think it has to the person they appear as has to come from the person they're appearing to. Oh my god, that's
Yeah,
too complicated.
yeah,
Do you see what
yeah.
I'm saying?
I got it.
Like when he is Christian, for example, to Locke, like Locke doesn't know Christian.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Okay. All right, then that doesn't mean anything then. I want to investigate the idea that she's a smoke monster, but I at the from so far thinking I can't find any good examples to prove it.
Examples
I,
to prove it?
well, yeah, like
What do you
things
mean?
that would make me think that it's likely she was a smoke monster,
Right,
or
right.
anything that makes just evidence, evidence.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, no, I agree. There isn't much. Honestly, I don't. believe it. I just that it's just that the mother ghost always bothered me, and if that were actually the fake mother
Hmm.
as a smoke monster sort of manipulating the situation, it makes more sense to me, I guess. It feels more right. The only other evidence is just the fact of the extent to which the village was wasted, and sort of her as a kind of ordinary human being. It was a lot of destruction,
Hmm.
and I think that's why people jump to the conclusion that she has to be something more to, you know, kill an entire village and burn it down and then fill up this giant hole where the donkey wheel is and stuff. Like, she
Hmm.
just shouldn't be able to do that if she doesn't have some extra, you know, powers,
Hmm.
basically. And basically on the show, the only thing with
I
superpowers
mean, listen, she
is,
is evil, so it does help if she is a
yeah,
smoke monster.
yeah.
I just want I gotta maybe think about it more, but I want to think about what she did and find more evidence that it's like, okay, that makes sense. Because yeah, like the destroying the town makes sense. That's good evidence. It means
Yeah,
something, and we definitely know a smoke monster could do that. But we
yeah.
definitely know she's more than just human.
That's true. That's true. And see, that's the way I always took it, because I mean, I know we never saw Jacob like destroy a village or something, but he could make people immortal. He did have some kind of, I mean, he was immortal
Because
himself.
I'm just thinking, like, it could be as simple as Mother's a smoke monster, and she tells the Man in Black he can't leave the island because she was told she can't leave the island.
Mhm.
It could be as simple as that. And so there's a previously
A
across the sea
cycle.
episode where she was a
Yeah.
young, where her sister threw her down there, and and it was like, you can't
Mhm.
leave now. It's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
now I'm
Yeah.
stuck here. But she didn't want to leave, so it wasn't
Right.
a big conflict because she also
Right.
thought the island needed protecting or something.
Right.
So
Right. And
I
so
I
then
wouldn't put
she
it past them to have this kind of cycle go on forever, and I feel like it's I feel like I want to say it's unlikely that Man in Black was the first smoke monster on that island. I want to say 60-40.
I mean, I agree that, like, another thing people bring up, which you already brought up, is the fact that Mother says words about what happens if you go down there.
Mm-hmm.
Saying it's a fate worse than death, which does suggest that someone told her that, or that's come from somewhere, and that does suggest the idea that someone has done it before.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I agree. I agree. And yeah, I mean, I I'm sort of torn on that question, because I kind of feel like the show told us that was the first smoke monster and the only one, and if it's evil incarnate, you only have evil incarnate one time.
I was thinking about
you
that.
know?
Can't you have multiple evil incarnates? Why can't you
Yeah,
have
that's a good
two?
question.
I was
Why
thinking
can't?
that when we said that earlier. I was like, well, maybe you can't have two evil. They're both evil
Well,
incarnates.
okay, you tell me. Like, why can you have two? I mean, is there? I mean,
Well, because evil incarnate it doesn't that concept to me doesn't mean it's all the evil that there is, right? It just
okay,
means that it's very evil.
okay,
It doesn't mean, that the
right.
totality of evil is in this one
It
thing.
wasn't all. See, I guess that
Because
was my interpretation.
because
I guess.
or look at it this way: you have take evil incarnate as a singular thing, right?
Yeah,
Now, if you split that in two, they're
yeah,
both half evil incarnate, but they're
right.
both evil incarnate.
That's true.
So I feel like it's one of those weird things where it's the value might be less, but it's still the thing. I don't know.
Right, right. No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I guess I originally envisioned it that, like, when he goes in the cave, he really, like, he sucked up all the evil.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
used to think that too, but the more human he seems, the more less likely, and the more pedestrian they make him. Like or that we discover he is through re-examining stuff. I feel like it's not that simple because there should be more evil left, right? There is still evil left in the world after he does that.
Hmm.
There's still evil left on the
Right.
island. I mean, so it's like
Yeah.
if he took all the evil, then where did he take it from? Because there's still more evil around.
Right. Right.
So and that's why I feel, and, the meaning that we put on that word evil and what they do in the show, I think it's just played out. I think like it's just like he had some evil, a little evil, but that's enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
It's enough to make him a smoke monster.
Right. 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 I mean, I guess the vision I had in my head of uh, him being a human being and also being evil incarnate was that it was sort of, and part of why he doesn't really know, he doesn't seem to be aware of his own powers a lot of times, or denies he has certain powers. Um, uh, is that like he he doesn't perceive, I mean, for him, like his consciousness is still the same as it was before, so he just has his own, but it's sort of like the evil's along for the ride as a as a sort of what's the word, uh uh um what's the word for when you get on something and you don't have a ticket?
Um,
Isn't there a word for that?
I feel like I know. I don't know if there's a word, but I feel like I know what you're talking about. Like, it's not trespassing. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, like you hop on
like
a train or
when you bum a
something.
ride. Is it a phrase you're looking for?
Yeah. I thought it was like just a word for the kind of person, for the person who does this. Like they hop on a train and they don't have a
Oh!
ticket
You mean a no ticketer?
and they
That common phrase, the no ticketer. Yeah. So it's like a person gets on and they don't have a ticket. I don't know if there's a word for that.
Okay, okay. Well, okay, at the very least, you get the idea of what I mean. Like it's
Yeah.
sort of coming along as a passenger, but it's not driving his brain, but it's kind of in the background, like
You mean his
influencing
dark
him.
passenger?
Like his dark, yes, thank you. No, that's perfect. Like something like that. Like it's not like it's literally taken over his mind. He still has his own mind, but it's there, like influencing him subconsciously.
Yeah.
Like that's how it seems to me. Because it's like part of him. You know,
Hmm.
but his conscious mind is
See,
still the same as it was.
I'm coming to the conclusion that it's like I said before, it's more like he stepped in evil and it's on his shoe, following him around. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's kind of what I'm saying.
yeah, but it's not necessarily influencing him. It's just more
Okay,
it's unfortunately a part of him, but he can't find it.
right,
People are like trying to point it out to him, and he's looking at his shoe. He doesn't see anything. Like they
right,
keep telling him he's evil, and he's like, "Where? Where's the evil?"
right. I guess I tend to want to think it influences him some, but I think that
Because
is definitely
he was
questionable.
bad before, but that's the thing. He wasn't a good guy before.
Right.
You know.
That's true, but it seems to me like he was worse. But the thing is, on the other hand, you know, he's worse after 2,000 years of imprisonment.
The
So
factor that in too. Yeah.
it's like not really fair to sort of compare. That's the thing. Like I want to say that, but on the other hand, it's justifiable to a certain extent. Not justifiable, but at least like understandable.
Hmm.
You know, like having that sort of, being willing to do whatever it takes to get off the island after being trapped there for so long. It's just not the same as just, I just want people to suffer, because I just
Yeah.
like it when people suffer. It didn't really seem like he had that, degree of evil, where
Yeah,
like,
that's the whole difference. We talked about it before. That's the difference between Evil Incarnate and Man in Black is Evil Incarnate would have wanted Jacob to bring people to the island, would have helped him bring people to the island so he could torment these people.
Yeah.
and so he could play with them like rats in a maze and just have fun killing them off one by one, and giving them these psychological nightmare dreams, and
Yeah.
making them do all these crazy things. You know what I'm saying? That's what Evil Incarnate would do. He wouldn't want to leave the island. That'd be his best playground, you
Right.
know. But Man in Black was always goal oriented. Was he just wanted freedom, and that's the biggest problem with him as a villain. It's his goal is freedom, which is so understandable, right? It's tough to be like, oh, I hate that villain. He wants freedom, you know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that freedom.
Only assholes want that. Evil, evil assholes. Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I think it was a weird choice. Um, and I'm not sure that they were always going in that direction. Like my sort of plot change nose starts twitching when
I think you should see a doctor about that.
well, I will. Um, when I come to this point, because it sort of feels to me, the argument between Man in Black and Jacob about whether people are good or evil. You have that thing. You have the Man in Black wants to leave. You have the backstory of the two of them. You have him being evil, and you have the rules. You have all these things, and it feels to me like a lot of these ideas were come up, like they came up with them at separate times,
Hmm.
and like some of them were there earlier and some of them were added later, and they tried to turn it into a coherent thing, but it kind of feels to me like there was an idea of the smoke monster being evil. It feels to me like that was first, and then the later thing was, what's his motivation? He wants to leave. He's been trapped there.
Who's
It feels to me
trapping him?
like,
Yeah, he's been trapped there. Who's trapping him?
yeah,
The
exactly.
good version is trapping him, who also is the
Yeah,
people the others are following. Okay,
yeah,
how did they get in that situation? Oh, well, they're brothers. How
yeah,
did they get started? Where did the conflict start? Well, the conflict started when
yeah.
their mother said, "You're good and he's bad."
Exactly. Exactly. But then when you get to the end, it's sort of like, but he's evil? Like,
Hmm.
it sort of doesn't add
So
up
it's again,
anymore.
it's like what we said about it's the numbers again. It's like
Yeah.
we see these plot elements basically in reverse order. The most interesting thing first, and then when
Right.
you get to the end, which is the final thing that they say about it, it's the most mundane thing about it. And
Right.
and then you go, really? All of that from this?
Yeah. 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 No, that's a good point, actually, because it has that structure,
Hmm.
you know, and I think it might also be possible that when they introduced the numbers, they thought it would uh, come to something, but then they realized it kind of symbolized, you know, that ultimate sort of red herring in a way, you
Yeah.
know, or just like that mystery that never, that doesn't really have an answer
Yeah.
because it's kind of meaningless. But I think it's clear from early in the series. I mean, there's a whole thing with Locke giving that speech, and I mean, I think they had this light and dark thing, good and evil. I mean, they made that very explicit, and I think they wanted that idea early on. It's just that the backstory that they ran into sort of didn't uh, gel together very well with the
Hmm.
idea that he was evil, and it just it feel that's the sense I get about what happened there, and that the story they came up with just sort of. It also bothers me that they didn't name him. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't really understand that. If he's evil incarnate, then I understand why they didn't name him. But the character they showed us, it feels like they should have named him. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I think there's something cool. I think they're happy with it being cool. That he doesn't have a name, but I think it. I agree exactly what you're saying. Like it should have been a little bit more convincing to them to give him a name than to
Yeah.
just be happy with it being cool that he doesn't have a name.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the character that we saw, he was a very distinct, particular person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was not an abstract entity. You
Yeah.
know, he had a personality and a life, and I feel like he deserved a name. And to abstract him like that, I mean, it works sometimes. I mean, Stephen King's Man in Black character, which I'm sure was some kind of influence on that particular name choice,
Mm-hmm.
like is is much more, an evil incarnate type character where he just likes playing around with people. He likes destruction and chaos, and it totally makes much more sense that he is this kind of force, and
Mm-hmm.
not really a particular individual,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and so it kind of makes sense that he doesn't have a name, or he has like a million names, you
Yeah.
know. Like it sort of works, but like for this guy, like I don't know, it just doesn't add up to me, their presentation of him. And again, it just feels like a mixture of ideas about him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can work with the general idea of like we don't really know how evil or if he was evil and all that,
Mm-hmm.
It kind of fits, but it also just bothers me. I mean, I also just kind of wish they had been more clear about that, both for me selfishly and also just for the character and the story itself. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
I would have a different investment in the story if the character himself had an understanding of who he was,
Yeah.
and
Uh,
also Jacob's relationship with him, I think,
I feel like
should
they
have been
wanted to
different.
say something about the nature of evil, and I don't know what it is they said about it, but I wish it could have been something eh, simple, like, you know, the only evil is the things men do, or something like that. So it's not about
Yeah.
who pushed who into the light cave, who got evil incarnate all over them. It's about, well, what did you do after that?
Right.
What did you do with your actions, and did you hurt people and cause harm? Okay, then you're the evil one.
Right.
And it seems like they could have made a point like that if they wanted to, but yeah, I don't really know. Maybe in the next couple of years we'll figure out Man in Black and Evil Incarnate and what they were sort of trying to say about evil, because they got very specific. I mean, they even took out instruments to measure evil. So
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean? If it's measurable, it's
Yeah.
scientific, it's
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's objective.
Right.
What's good and bad, and that seems like the opposite of what they should be trying to say.
Right. Right.
And then I
Yeah.
think if they want to, have a character say, you can measure goodness and evil, then and they don't think that that's true, then they should show that being wrong. And I don't know if Dogen's story is supposed to somehow show him being wrong about that belief, or because he ended up getting killed by the evil guy,
Right.
who we thought was evil. So
It does make him look kind of right. I guess
yeah.
on the other hand, like it does seem like at the last minute, Saeed and also Claire, who he presumably off screen also measured, seemed to be able to shake off this being evil disease that they had.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's called BED.
And
Yeah.
and so it feels like maybe to a certain extent that did prove him wrong, because he said pretty explicitly, like, once it takes you over, like you'll never come back from it,
Hmm.
like it's you'll never be the same again, or whatever.
Yeah, same thing they said
And,
about Ben.
yeah, 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 of course. Ugh, yeah, and that oh my god.
And again, like, why was, yeah, I don't know. Let's not talk about him, but he got it off easy on this show.
Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Michael Emerson was just too good,
Mm-hmm.
and like they just didn't want to like punish his character too much.
The most evil character in the show, they just felt too bad about. They're like, well, he's so good, even though
Yeah.
he's bad.
Like his acting was so good, it was just like they couldn't bring themselves to have him really like
Or
have the.
maybe that's the only thing he doesn't do well with acting is when he's being punished.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
maybe
he's the
so.
worst actor when he's getting his comeuppance. But every other thing he's expert at.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So they were like, well, we just
yeah,
can't write that scene.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, that would be hilarious. He's a genius, but when he's being punished, he's like the worst actor you've
Yeah.
ever seen.
He just looks at the
Oh,
camera and yeah, he just
why are you punishing me?
David Lynch, everybody. David Lynch.
That was supposed to be my Michael Everson impression, but yeah, it kind of sound like David
Yeah, they're
Lynch.
close.
They are. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think his redemption arc was good in certain ways, but I do agree that it's I mean, it's part of the thing I was saying about Michael. It does feel imbalanced. It feels like other characters like Michael had to suffer a lot for minor sins, and he
Hmm.
just kind of got off pretty light. He had to dig his own grave one day, but like that that was about it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he lost Alex, I guess. Maybe that was his big punishment.
Eh,
Not enough.
not enough. To me, that's getting off easy. If that all
Yeah,
out of everything he did, he only lost Alex. Like that's
yeah,
pretty getting off. That's getting off pretty easy.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
after raising her and for until what 15, 16, 17 years or however old she was, right?
yeah.
Which is Michael didn't get that at all. He got maybe that many days with Walt. You
Yeah,
know.
got a point there. I'm just saying, like, looking for Ben being
And like Ben
punished.
wasn't even her dad, her real dad, and Michael
Yeah,
was Walt's real dad. It's just
that's
like,
true.
yeah, it's all very
He
disproportionate.
kidnapped her, actually.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, he's upset about the girl he kidnapped. Oh,
yeah. No, I agree. I agree. It's not that it's not that strong. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe I'm like them. I'm sort of won over by his redemption thing. Although I think at the end it gets a bit muddy. His like final evil turn. Like
yeah.
I think that period was kind of mangled. But the initial thing was good, and I guess I think because he was also like a big pawn of the Man in Black, part of his loophole plan.
Hmm.
I guess that put him in a kind of sympathetic position to start with.
Yeah.
The fact that you realize, like, you know even though uh, Locke obviously was also quite a bit manipulated, and Ben manipulated him as well, all the way up to murdering him. Ben himself, had been subject to this whole thing, and like is talked all the way up to killing his god, by
Hmm.
this guy, and I feel like that puts you in a position of wanting to sympathize with him, because it's such a vulnerable position that he's in, and relative to the big villain of the season. I feel like that's somehow how he ends up not being a bad guy that suffers in season 6.
Hmm. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And plus a lot of the bad stuff he did was a while before he actually has to pay for it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I mean the off island stuff is sort of different. because it's kind of like revenge and
Remember when he tricks Saeed into killing all of Widmore's men for like a year or whatever? Like,
yeah, that was a weird year, man. I'm not sure if even he knew sometimes why he was doing that or what exactly the threat was.
yeah, I think yeah, Widmore's like, my guys are. I don't know what's happening. I'm just trying to run a legitimate business here,
hmm
and I send my guy off on a golf vacation, and he
hmm
ends up dead on the green. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, yeah, like it's like, no, Widmore's gonna kill us all. And it's like, are you sure, guys? Like,
Yeah, it's like, how do you know that? How do you know?
yeah, no, I mean that subplot is a mess. But it's different, I think, because it's pretty explicitly about revenge for Alex, and so it's not really the same as like some of the other stuff he was doing that was, people who hadn't done anything to him and, who didn't really there's a sense that like Widmore is evil and the people that work with him are evil and so they kind of deserve it.
Which wasn't true at all.
Oh, not that it was true, but there
I
was
know.
that
I'm
idea.
just saying. In hindsight, like, it wasn't true at all. Like, okay,
Yeah, but it felt
what's the
true.
worst thing Widmore did?
It's the worst thing that Widmore did. Well, let's see. He wasn't very nice to Desmond at one time.
He was persnickety on occasion.
He was very persnickety. He was very snobbish. He wouldn't let him drink his whiskey. He mocked him for
He
how
did.
little money he
He
made.
did. He did. Such bad, evil things these make.
This swallow is worth what you can make in a month.
How dare him?
So yeah, that was not nice.
Uh huh.
And then after that there was no, I think probably the worst thing he did was just send the freighter with Kimi, and those guys were kind of bad, and I mean I think that's probably his worst thing by far.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean they were bad guys, but he was going against Ben there. And Ben won that fight, by the way,
Oh yeah.
by
Yeah.
blowing up the freighter and killing Kimi and sicking the smoke monster on them and all that stuff.
But Ben had help. Ben had help from Smoke Monster
True. True.
and Michael.
And that seems very, yeah, well, that's yet another hole in the story. But yeah, no, right. And he hired Michael to be on there. But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that even though Widmore hired these like ruthless mercenaries and sent them to the island, and obviously like they were gonna just you know I mean they killed people and whatever. He was going up against Ben, who was equally, if not more, ruthless, and who did in fact kill
He was
basically
his.
everyone
You're
that came
saying
up
he was
there.
his most ruthless when he was going up against the most ruthless guy on the show.
Yes,
Okay, I'll buy that.
exactly. And like meanwhile, like Ben, like leaves that bomb for Michael on the boat, and like he tries to set it off, and like it doesn't go off, and then he talks to Michael, and he's like, I just wanted to teach you a lesson that we're not like them. We don't blow up, we don't just kill people. That was your decision. It's just like where he gets off with that fucking like moralizing, like,
Uh-huh.
God, I hate when the others are like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's what that whole thing reminded me of, because it's like I was thinking about the fact that he basically killed like everybody that came on that freighter except for a few.
Indiscriminately.
Yeah, indiscriminately, after like telling Michael about how, oh, we're better than them, and that's what I wanted to prove to you by like sending this fake bomb. you know it's just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what a fucking pompous ass. Like, wow, it's amazing he's a likable character.
It is. It is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I can totally imagine like a different version of Lost where like Michael Emerson got like I don't know, he got sick or something and he couldn't like make the audition, or he got hired on some other job and so he never got the call or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody else ends up playing that part, and it's just like the 3 episode arc that they intended, and we just get a completely different show
Yeah.
where it's just a completely different character, and you know I feel like that part is so dependent on Michael Emerson that I, I can't really. It's hard to judge the character independently of that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because what he does on screen is like, he doesn't really get judged on the same level as other characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's a super character.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, all right. We're turning these commentary podcasts into the same length as our original series. These are getting long.
Yeah, they are. Well, I feel like we made some big discoveries about Lost recently, and that's sort of added to the length. And I think also like we're hitting a point in season 2 where like some of the bigger questions are coming up.
Yeah,
You
that's true.
know, like for a while there, we're watching like Fire Plus Water and the whole truth. Where it's just like it's not quite as much in terms of like the
Mm-hmm.
bigger picture.
Yeah.
You know. So I mean, we'll see what happens when we get to season 3.
Oh, season
some of
3.
those, some of those episodes.
Oh wow, yeah, that's just I just remember the desert wasteland that is the first part of season 3.
Yeah, because we're lucky now. Like this is the good part of season 2 that we're in right now.
Yeah, no, this is
Like
this is some of the best of Lost.
the last few episodes have been very good. Like with just a lot of really interesting plot developments and really like building tension and building the plot, and like the ending of this, like it was great. So
Yeah.
it's like when I compare that to some of the stuff that I know is coming soon, it's like, oh, it's just sad.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're gonna have to sit. We're gonna. You just mentioned the sheriff. That's something that's coming up pretty soon.
Oh jeez.
Hope you're excited for that.
Oh, the sheriff, the most important Lost character ever.
So important, she was killed off screen.
That's when you know you're important.
Like they actually took the time to say that. That
Yeah.
tells me they really didn't want to bring her back.
Yeah, you're never coming back if that happens.
They're like, oh yeah, she was killed off screen in that attack. Like, oh really?
Oh,
I
what's no?
I don't believe you, sir. That sounds like
Oh, are you saying
bullshit.
it's a conspiracy theory? She's actually still alive?
Yes, I think she's still alive. She was behind it all the
I
whole
think I
time.
think she's a smug monster.
She probably is a smoke monster. Why not?
Why wouldn't she be? It's all about the meaning, right? The meaning we place on these things.
Exactly. Man, that'd be so weird if we found out like half the characters are smoke monsters.
And that was the whole point. Like it's just a battle between like how many are there just people and how many of the people are smoke monsters. Like
Oh, that would be such a weird show. It's kind of like The Thing, like the smoke monsters are just like alien,
yeah.
and they can sort of spread. They just have to throw each other into the light.
That's all it takes.
You just toss them in there. And it's like Jack got thrown in. That's why he woke up in that place where he was. So like he's been a smoke monster the whole time.
Oh, that's perfect. So they weren't dead the whole time. They were just all smoke monsters the whole time.
Exactly.
That's my new favorite theory, right?
They were
there.
smoke monsters
They're-
the whole
the
time.
whole time they were smoke monsters.
Damon, why won't you just admit they were smoke monsters the whole time?
I feel like that's the question I want to ask if I ever see them at a panel now. Like, listen, I know you guys have been over this 1,000 times, but just yes or no. Were they or were they not the whole time smoke monsters? I'd love to see their reaction to that.
The only one who wasn't a smoke monster was
Was
Smoke
Smokey?
Monster.
Yep, he's the only one who wasn't.
See, it's all about perspective.
It's all about perspective. That's why he looked like a smoke monster to them.
Because he was the only one who wasn't a smoke monster.
Exactly, because to him, they all look like smoke monsters.
Oh my god, that totally makes sense. Honestly, I feel like this show makes way more sense like that.
And that's why he wanted to get off the island, because it's full of smoke monsters.
He's trapped there with a bunch of smoke monsters.
Oh man, that makes so much sense.
It really does.
Oh, of course.
It really shouldn't make that much sense. There's just no reason. Oh my god. Wow.
That's crazy.
How many breakthroughs can you have in one podcast?
Well, I don't know. We'll find out. They're all smoke monsters. Wow. Makes so much sense.
It's so ridiculous. Oh my god.
You know what's funny? If we add in my theory that when you change between a smoke monster and a person, your memory is affected.
Mm-hmm.
That explains why they don't tell each other stuff.
Right. That's a good point. That's good. That's a good evidence for your theory.
They forget.
Yeah. They forget, and then we just have to decide, like. Oh my god, that's so crazy. So now we know why the smoke alarm went off.
There it is.
It was you, Jack.
You were a smoke monster all along. Yeah, that's
you and all your friends.
Yeah, that'd be crazy if every time we saw the smoke monster it was one of the Losties.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. And then we have to decide who was the smoke monster, who.
Yeah.
All we can say is it's not the other characters that are in that scene.
Yeah, exactly.
The one that scans Echo, it can't be Echo or Charlie, but it could be anybody.
That's a great idea for a short sci-fi horror film, though.
Yeah.
It's the classic. Characters wake up in a place, they don't know how they got there and stuff like that, and they start dying one by one, and they realize they're all the killer.
They're all the killer. Oh my god.
That's like adaptation. When he comes up with the three.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It reminds me of a high, that kind of high concept where it's high concept but it's ridiculous at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's a bit like spoiler alert, Identity.
Oh yeah.
I think that is a similar idea, but I really want the the monster in the jungle. It's us.
Oh man! Well, how mind blowing would that have been? Not that it's me or it's him or it's them.
Exactly.
It's us. That's the show I want to watch.
That show is crazy.
Yeah.
No one was expecting that answer.
Yep. It's us.
It's us. Oh my god.
And it's like, hey guys, where are we? Home.
No one expected that either.
And they realize this is where they actually came from. They just thought they were regular people, but
right,
they were smoke monsters the whole time.
They've been smoke monsters the whole time. Oh my god. Yeah, that's so crazy.
It's the best theory. It's the best theory.
It really is, and I'm 99% sure no one has thought of this theory, A, and no one has presented this theory to Damon and Carlton, B.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. We got we got to like piece together evidence that there's smoke monsters the whole time and like present it. I like that.
I feel like that it totally. I mean, the first like obvious step that we can go from there is then, therefore, as you thought all along, Vincent is a smoke monster.
Vincent is a smoke monster. Yep.
It's just the key thing is he is a smoke monster.
Yep.
There is no the smoke monster. That would be so mind blowing if they actually told us that. Like, I would have been like, oh my god, what?
That would have been great phrase. There is no the smoke monster. There's only a,
Yeah.
there's many smoke monsters.
Exactly. Like I remember there was a two smoke monster theory
Hmm.
where there was like the good smoke monster and the bad smoke monster.
Yeah.
But this because like the one Locke saw was the good one, and that's why it was so beautiful.
Hmm.
But like this takes it a step further. There's not two. There's like 40 of them. It's a lot of smoke
A lot of
monsters.
smoke monsters.
But it would explain a lot of things. And it would change a lot of things too.
Yeah.
Christian, like his body somehow got like thrown into the cave, and he actually was a smoke monster himself, and that's why his body wasn't in the coffin. Is it too much?
We can take it further.
Like somehow I want to explain why his body wasn't in the coffin. I feel like somehow it should fit in.
Hmm.
Because I feel like
Well,
that's
see, I'm
a
thinking if they're
whole
smoke monsters the
lot.
whole time, then they were smoke monsters before the plane crash.
Ah, right. Okay.
See, it's kind of like
It's a good
how
point.
the characters with powers have were born on the island. They just didn't remember
Right.
it. It's like
Right.
all these people. That's what I'm saying. Like when they're like, "Where are we? We're home. Like this is where we came from."
Right.
We
Right. So
thought,
they've been out in the world.
yeah, they've been out in the world living life, thinking that they were
Right.
regular people, but
The whole time they were
the
smoke
whole time they were smoke
monsters.
monsters.
Oh my god. It's like scary and crazy and like, oh my god, what kind of show is that? Oh my god, the first flashback where we see someone like transform into the smoke monster off the island. That would have been like, oh my god.
Yeah, no, that would have been crazy.
That would have been fucking insane. America would not be able to sleep after that. Like,
And yeah, and that's the thing. And that's oh man, that's a different show, but it's so cool. And like
yeah, it's a
Jacob
complete show.
Jacob is going around in the real world, and the people he touches are the people who are smoke monsters, and he's bringing them to the island so he could like bring them home, basically, and like collect all the smoke monster people around the world.
Oh my god, that is such a different show. But I would watch that show.
Yeah, I'd watch it.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you why I brought you here. You see, you're all smoke monsters.
I gotta go now. Bye.
Thank you, good night.
Oh.
I can't really add anything to that.
No, you could make that work. You could make that work. But different show.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh
It changes a lot of things,
yeah, like
say the least.
all the things.
Like everything that thing.
Yeah. But not everything, but everything.
But pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Like 90%.
Hmm. All right. Anything else about 3 minutes or Lost?
Um, I'm going to say no. I think we've
Thank
covered
you.
it. Now that we've got they were all smoke monsters theory, I think we have to stop there.
I think yeah, we can't make any better theories than that at this point. So
Exactly.
all right. So then we'll be back next time with
That's right. Live together.
Die Alone. Part 1.
Part 1 and maybe part 2.
And maybe part 2. We'll see what we do there.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks and namaste.
Namaste and good luck.